Chapter 223. Jiyu Jingzi said, "You don't have to be so polite with me." Lin Che said, "Of course, you must have endured a lot with me as your wife. If someone else was your wife, you wouldn't have to give in so much." The someone else he was referring to was naturally Mo Hualing. Lin Che thought that she had too many things to deal with. Work, life, and the trouble of forming a group. Mo Hualing might not have had so much trouble even though they had been together for more than 10 years. Jiyu Jingzi looked at Lin Che, his eyes moving. He looked into the distance and said, "If that's the case, then you do have a lot of troubles." Lin Che's heart sank and he looked at Jiyu Jingzi. Jiyu Jingzi smiled. "But since I married you, I'll just accept it." Lin Che glared at him with all his might. "You really don't know how to make a girl happy. How can you tell the truth at a time like this? Think about it, it's lucky that you married me. If it were another woman, you would have been pissed to death. At least we had an agreement beforehand, so I can live peacefully with you. If it were someone else, who would be able to tolerate a blockhead like you?" "Mitch," Jiyu Jingzi said, "you asked me, so of course I have to answer you seriously. Otherwise, what should I say? Of course I said what I wanted. Girls need to be coaxed, understand? That's why I feel wronged marrying you. Other people at least have a honeymoon period when they get married, but I don't have anything and have to endure your bad temper. Tell me, don't you think I feel wronged? Yes, it's been hard on you. A good girl like you deserves a better marriage." Jiyu Jingzi thought that she did feel wronged marrying him. There was no wedding, no sweetness, no honeymoon. A girl of her age should have a happy relationship and the sweetness of getting married because of love, but she didn't have anything. Lin Che looked at him in surprise. "Aya, you know how to say nice things now?" Jiyu Jingzi said, "Yeah, I'm just applying what I learned." He knew that he had a bad habit. However, Lin Che looked at Jiyu Jingzi and felt that she wasn't good enough for him. To be able to get to know him and spend so much time with him, she must have used up all the luck in her life. She had no status, no identity, and was a troublemaker. She was not gentle and virtuous enough. He deserved a better woman, but she was so selfish and liked to be free. She could not become a better woman for him. Lin Che glared at him and looked up at him. "Can I really audition for that movie?" "Of course you can. I was just casually saying that. I won't interfere with your career." Lin Che smiled. "Still, thank you. Actually, you have the right to interfere. We've agreed that I'll cooperate with you and be Mrs. Jiyu. If I don't treat you well, you have to tell me. After all, I don't really understand." "Fool, this matter of yours won't affect me too much. Otherwise, wouldn't I have wasted all these years?" Jiyu Jingzi said, "If my wife can't do what she wants freely, then I'm a failure as a husband. But Miss Mo has never been so troublesome. I'm just thinking. Am I being too selfish?" Lin Che bit her lip and looked at her fingers. She felt guilty at the thought. Jiyu Jingzi took a deep breath and looked at her. Hui Ling has never been so troublesome. Lin Che looked up at Jiyu Jingzi, her eyes sparkling. Jiyu Jingzi continued, "But I know that it's because Hui Ling hasn't done anything for so many years. She just stays at home and doesn't work. How troublesome can she be? You have your own dreams and your own career. This isn't a bad thing and you shouldn't feel that it's troublesome. It's something to be encouraged." Lin Che's gaze softened. She looked at Jiyu Jingzi's gentle eyes and felt even more guilty. She couldn't do anything for him and could only cause trouble for him. She was really not a good wife. Jiyu Jingzi heaved a sigh of relief. "All right, don't think too much. If you really feel that you're not good, then don't cause trouble and work hard. Don't mess with those shady men." Lin Che looked at Jiyu Jingzi speechlessly. "Are you talking about Jiyu Jingyu?" Jiyu Jingzi glared at her. Lin Che thought weakly that Jiyu Jingyu was his younger brother. Although Jingyu isn't a bad person, he's a hooligan and doesn't do anything good. He has a lot of troublesome things that Big Brother and I have to help him deal with. You still treat him like an idol. What good can you learn from him? Don't hang out with him and learn bad things," Jiyu Jingzi said. Lin Che pouted. "I didn't say that I treat him like an idol. I just said that he's a good person. Of course a retard like you can't tell good people from bad. Everyone is good in your eyes. It's not the first time you've had bad taste. Lin Che glared at him. The weather was good. Although it was cold, the sky was cold and clear. It was like a huge ink plate inlaid with delicate pearls. Lin Che took a deep breath and said, the weather is so good. Let's walk before we go back. Jiyu Jingze saw that her mood had improved instantly. He secretly shook his head and scolded her for being so heartless. However, he still looked up and nodded in agreement. Lin Che ran out like a little bird. She was still wearing a down jacket, but because she was already very thin, her small figure didn't look fat at all. Instead, she looked very cute. Her slender legs moved around under the hem of the down jacket. It reminded people of the little red bird in Angry Birds. Jiyu Jingze curled his lips into a smile and followed Lin Che's footsteps. Lin Che said, I don't have any great ambitions, but I want to become a big sister one day. I'll let those people who are waiting to see me die for nothing see me one by one. She clenched her fists. She still felt angry when she thought about how she had been ostracized inside. She wasn't good alone, and her whole team didn't have the right to speak. Therefore, people really had to work hard and reach the top so that the people around them wouldn't be wronged. She also hoped that one day, Yu Minmin wouldn't have to listen to others because of her. Then, he wouldn't have to be humiliated like today. Jiyu Jingze looked at her high fighting spirit and looked at her calmly. Big sister? Yeah, do you think I can do it? Lin Che turned around and said. Jiyu Jingze smiled at her. You can definitely do it. Lin Che smiled shyly. Yes, you can definitely do it. Sooner or later, I'll be at the top of the world and show those who look down on me. How dare you bully me? When I become a big sister, I'll get my assistant to teach you a lesson. Seeing Lin Che's despicable look, Jiyu Jingze was really speechless. However, he also found it very interesting. Especially the rich expressions on her face, it was very vivid. Many people thought that men should like women who weren't so utilitarian, and he thought so too. However, this little woman had her utilitarian nature written clearly on her face, and he couldn't find it in him to dislike her. Chapter 224. Jiyu Jingze took a few steps forward and quickly grabbed her arm. Be careful. There are cars on the road. Glaring at the rash woman, he said, How are you going to be the mistress of the Jiyu family in the future? Lin Che curled her lips. Fortunately, she didn't really want to be the mistress of the Jiyu family. She thought that someone else would be the mistress of the Jiyu family in the future. She didn't know who it would be, but it definitely wouldn't be her. Could it be Mo Hualing? She was a little unwilling to let Jiyu Jingze marry a woman like Mo Hualing. However, Jiyu Jingze had been with Mo Hualing since they were young. Other than Mo Hualing, he didn't know any other women. If they divorced one day, he might go back to Mo Hualing. Although he was quarreling with Mo Hualing now, it might end any time. After all, they still had more than 10 years of relationship. She couldn't deny that Mo Hualing's words still affected her. Mo Hualing was right. After all, they had only been together for a short period of time. His feelings for Mo Hualing were the deepest. Even if he wanted to be with her and do those things, it might be because he had never touched a woman before, and she was the only one he could touch. Seeing that there were so many cars, Jiyu Jingze turned around and gave the bodyguard a look. The bodyguards immediately received the order and quickly found someone to block some traffic. Jiyu Jingze held Lin Che's hand with one hand and gently interlocked their fingers. For a moment, a sense of satisfaction rose in his heart, and the corners of his lips curled up even more quietly. Her hand was really too small. When he looked down at it, it gave him the urge to hold it tightly. It made him want to squeeze it tightly and bully her. However, it was so delicate that it felt as if the bones would be broken if he used too much force. Her palm was slightly cold. It was probably because the weather was too cold. He frowned and touched her palm. It's so cold. Are you cold? Why don't we go back? No, my hand is cold all year round. Lin Che turned back to look at him and smiled. He was wearing a down jacket, but he was only wearing a dark yellow trench coat. He was tall, so when he wore a trench coat, he gave off a very neat feeling. He was only wearing a shirt inside. Lin Che thought that he was the one who would feel cold. Lin Che hurriedly said, "Why don't we go back? You're wearing too little, aren't you cold?" Jiyu Jingze smiled as he looked at Lin Che. He turned around and pulled her into his embrace. Lin Che moaned. She felt his long arms slide down from both sides of her neck. His body leaned against Lin Che's back, tightly hugging Lin Che. Lin Che didn't expect his body temperature to be so high even though he wasn't wearing much. Although the clothes on his body were too thick and he couldn't feel it, he could feel the warmth of his body through his neck. It was seeping into his skin. This feeling was really warm, making people reluctant to leave for a moment. Lin Che felt the warmth and snuggled into his embrace. She found a comfortable position and smiled slightly. The feeling of happiness arose spontaneously, making her heart feel tender. Jiyu Jingze hugged her little body and whispered into her ear, "I don't like winter at all." "What?" Lin Che blinked as she looked up. Jiyu Jingze smiled. "You're wearing too many clothes. I can't touch you." Lin Che stepped on his shoe. "Get lost. Why are you touching me on the street?" Jiyu Jingze said, "I'm touching my own wife. Who cares?" Lin Che felt a sweetness in her heart. She felt her heart warm up a little. "Jiyu Jingze, you've learned to be glib," Lin Che said. Jiyu Jingze said, "What do you mean by glib? Where did you learn these sweet nothings from?" "Heh, do I have to learn this from someone?" Jiyu Jingze said. Lin Che said, "Otherwise, you wouldn't know how to say sweet nothings when you haven't even had a proper relationship." Jiyu Jingze smiled. "There's nothing to learn about these things. I'm born to say it to the person I want to say it to. It's an instinct." Lin Che was stunned. Jiyu Jingze said, "Otherwise, how can I carry on the family line?" "Get lost." Lin Che rolled her eyes. "So in the end, all sweet nothings are just for the sake of getting on the bed, right?" "Of course not. How can you think of me like that?" Jiyu Jingze said righteously, "Actually, if you don't want to get on the bed, I can do it on the carpet, the sofa, the kitchen, or the balcony." Lin Che blushed. "Pervert. Indecent. If I continue to be serious, you won't be able to take it anymore. You can only enjoy it if I'm not serious." Lin Che's little face was hidden in the down jacket. She looked like an angry little pufferfish as she puffed up her whole body and glared at him. Jiyu Jingze chuckled. He was amused by her and felt a little more at ease. Lin Che looked at his smile and thought that he looked really good when he smiled. Especially when he smiled sincerely. His eyes were like diamonds, shining brilliantly. The lines of his jaw also softened. His perfect face looked like it was glowing with sunshine, making people feel that it was so bright that they couldn't take their eyes off him. Lin Che touched his hand. Although his palm was warm, the back of his hand was still a little cold. She said, "You're wearing too little. Look, there's a little stall selling scarves." Jiyu Jingze raised his head and looked over. He saw a roadside stall selling things. The little girl was squatting there, looking around and waiting for customers. Lin Che pulled Jiyu Jingze over. Jiyu Jingze frowned. Looking at the things at the roadside stall, he felt that they were a little dirty. The quality couldn't be compared to those custom-made Italian woolen scarves. Lin Che didn't notice his resistance. She walked over and said, "Little girl, how much is the scarf?" "Pretty girl, I want to buy a scarf. It's 30 yuan each. If you want two, it'll be cheaper. Buy one. I knitted it myself." The little girl looked up and saw the two of them. Her eyes lit up. Handsome men and beautiful women were always eye-catching. At first glance, the young girl saw Jiyu Jingze's exquisite clothes. His face was so perfect that it was amazing. The indifference in his eyes made him look a little sexy. He was so eye-catching. The little girl's eyes lit up. "Sir, is this your girlfriend? She's so beautiful. You should buy one for her. The weather is so cold. It wouldn't be good if your girlfriend froze." Hearing her praise Lin Che, Jiyu Jingze smiled and looked at Lin Che. Lin Che said, "I want to buy one for her." When the little girl heard this, she said, "There are men's scarves here. Take a look. They must match your clothes." Lin Che saw a dark gray scarf. It looked furry. Although it didn't look eye-catching and couldn't be compared to those exquisite brands, it looked warm. She raised her hand and said, "Then I want that scarf. Can you try it on for me?" "Of course." The little girl quickly picked up the scarf and handed it to Lin Che with a smile. She stole a glance at the handsome guy beside her, still thinking that he was really good-looking. Jiyu Jingze frowned. Seeing Lin Che push the scarf over, he could only bite the bullet and let her do it on the street. Chapter 225. After wrapping the scarf around a few times, Lin Che loosened it. She looked up and saw that the scarf made Jiyu Jingze look even colder and more charming. Jiyu Jingze's handsomeness wasn't just for show. His perfect aristocratic aura made the scarf look as good as any other scarf from a famous brand. It was said that clothes made the man, but the clothes also depended on the person. Lin Che thought that for a man like Jiyu Jingze, even if he were to casually wear something, he'd be able to dress up like he was at Paris Fashion Week. Seeing this, the people around them also looked over. She held his scarf with both hands and looked at him. Her eyes were bright as she said, "You look so good." Hearing this, Jiyu Jingze's uncooperative gaze fell on Lin Che again. He smiled as he took off the scarf. The long scarf wrapped the two of them together. It also shortened the distance between the two of them. Lin Che's face was almost touching his chin. She looked up at him. She looked sweet and beautiful. The people around them couldn't help but look at them in admiration. One by one, they looked at the two of them. It was as beautiful as a painting, and they exclaimed in admiration that this couple was a perfect match. It was enviable. Someone couldn't help but say, "The scarf looks so good. It doesn't look like it's from a roadside stall. Let's buy one too." "Forget it. You look like a roadside stall product even if you wear Chanel. Don't you see how they look? If you buy the clothes they're wearing, they'll look completely different. Get lost. I think they look good." The young lady who was shopping couldn't help but take a photo of the two of them. With a click, it caught Jiyu Jingze's attention. He turned around and looked at the young lady. He said, "What are you doing?" The young lady was frightened by his cold gaze and trembled all over. "I think the two of you look so good. I want to take a photo and put it here to attract business." Hearing this, Lin Che looked at the young lady and said, "It's such a cold day. Why are you selling scarves here?" He felt that she was still young and should be a student. The little girl smiled bitterly. "I got into university, but I can't go. My family is too poor. I have no choice but to work this year and save enough money for my tuition and living expenses. I will take the exam again next year, so I work in the day and sell things at night to make up for it." Lin Che looked at the little girl, and his heart was moved for a moment. He seemed to think of himself when he was at the end of his rope. Lin Che understood that feeling of despair. However, no matter how desperate she was, she still had to give herself hope. That was how she had come over. Lin Che raised his head and said to Jiyu Jingze, "I think it's really good to have such a self-reliant girl. How about I buy everything?" Jiyu Jingze looked at her and nodded. Lin Che said to the little girl, "If you're interested, you can work for me. This is my contact information. Take it. When you decide to work for me, you can contact me. I can guarantee that this job will pay you more than your current job, but it will be very hard. I can't guarantee that you'll be interested. Anyway, you can give it a try." "Ah, thank you so much. I'll think about it." She looked at Jiyu Jingze, still blushing. "Sister, your boyfriend is so handsome, and you're so kind. You'll definitely be blessed." Lin Che smiled at her. Jiyu Jingze looked at the little girl, still holding Lin Che's hand. She turned around and wrapped the scarf around Jiyu Jingze. She stood on her tiptoes and looked at his face. He looked so beautiful. No wonder the little girl blushed when she saw him. Lin Che and Jiyu Jingze continued walking forward. Unknowingly, snowflakes began to fall from the sky. Jiyu Jingze furrowed his brows and reached out to catch the snowflakes. His calm and reserved appearance made it seem as if he had everything planned out and nothing could stop him from looking at it. Lin Che didn't think that she was the kind of person who liked men like this. She liked handsome boys who were sunny and optimistic, just like Qin Qing. However, slowly, She was bewitched by his beauty. At this moment, holding his hand, she actually felt her heart beating wildly. It was more excited than when they kissed or did passionate things. What was wrong with her? Seeing him look over, she quickly lowered her head. Could it be that she was really a little bit moved by him? Or was she just used to having his protection and relying on him for protection? But how could she dare to be moved by such a beautiful and powerful man? She avoided his gaze, but in the next moment, she accidentally stepped on the curb, and the entire heel of her shoe cracked. Oh no, it's so expensive, how can it break so easily? Lin Che couldn't help but cry out. Fortunately, Jiyu Jingze was beside her. He grabbed her hand and steadied her. What's wrong with you? You're so careless. Seeing that she was still worried about the high heel, Jiyu Jingze took it off and threw it aside. Hey, what are you doing? Lin Che cried out. Jiyu Jingze said, I'll buy you a car tomorrow. You don't need it anymore. Lin Che cried out speechlessly, the company borrowed it for me to attend today's annual meeting, okay? Jiyu Jingze didn't wait for her to pick up the shoe. He pulled her onto his back and said, don't move. I'll carry you. On his back, Lin Che paused for a moment and hugged his broad back. His heart was faintly touched, and it quietly flowed. When she was young, she had always yearned to ride on her father's shoulders and carry him everywhere like a treasure. But she hadn't even experienced fatherly love for a day. She leaned against him and couldn't help but press her face against his back. Jiyu Jingze trembled slightly. He felt her pressing against him. That tight feeling made him feel different. He smiled. This feeling was very stable and made him feel very comfortable. Lin Che lay there and said, let me get off. I'm fine. You twisted your leg. Can't you see that your ankle is red? I'll take you to the hospital. It's not that serious. If it gets serious, it'll be useless to go to the hospital. I don't want to serve a wife with a broken leg for the rest of my life. Really? Didn't we say our vows when we got married? They said that no matter if I'm sick or crippled, you'll never leave me. What's wrong with carrying me for the rest of your life? A lifetime? Jiyu Jingze's mind couldn't help but flash to the image of two white-haired people supporting each other. That image actually made him feel very warm. To be with her for the rest of his life, speaking of which, it didn't seem that hard to accept. He just thought that life would be very interesting. Chapter 226. Of course. Everyone wants to live a healthy life. Who would want to carry you for the rest of their lives? Lin Che harumphed. This guy really didn't know how to talk. You lied to me. You said that even if I died, you would protect me for the rest of your life. Nonsense. Jiyu Jingze frowned and stopped in his tracks. Die? What do you mean die? If she died, this world would suddenly lose a lot of things, a lot of things. Just imagining it made him feel uncomfortable. Lin Che lay on his back, smiling as she rubbed herself into a more comfortable position. Even if it was just a moment of tenderness, she wanted to enjoy it. His body heated up instantly. He was speechless. Did this woman even think of herself as a woman? She didn't know how to protect her body at all. Her chest was very soft, and it was driving him crazy as she rubbed herself against it. Although they were separated by a thick layer of clothing, it still ignited his body's desire instantly. With much difficulty, they finally reached the car. He looked at her blushing face and said coldly, don't let anyone carry you in the future. Lin Che was speechless. Why? Am I very heavy? Didn't I tell you not to carry me? You still want to carry me. Her muddle-headedness really made people feel helpless. He frowned as he looked at her. Are you a woman or not? How am I not a woman? If you don't believe me, I'll strip naked for you to see. Jiyu Jingze had forgotten that this woman had no morals at all. The space in the car was small. Staring at Lin Che, he suddenly pulled her and spanked her but a few times. The sound of the spanking made Lin Che speechless and embarrassed. She was already so old, yet she was still being spanked. What are you doing, Jiyu Jingze? She cried. She quickly pushed Jiyu Jingze away and took a few steps back. Jiyu Jingze said, I'll let you joke around next time. Don't say such things to any man in the future. He looked at the smooth skin on her neck. When he heard her say that she would strip naked for him to see, he had already stripped her naked with his gaze. He knew that her skin was as smooth as silk. Her body was so small that it made people sigh. She was so delicate that he couldn't bear to touch her too heavily. Her delicate little face was actually much prettier than Mo Hualing's. Mo Hualing only had the temperament of a young miss, and her face wasn't that pretty. However, Lin Che was the type that made people feel better the more they looked at him. Jiyu Jingzi didn't want to compare her with Mo Hualing, but he was only familiar with Mo Hualing, so he started to compare them. In short, this little face was enough to make any man unable to hold back. He thought that any man, faced with her invitation, would immediately throw away his armor and throw away his armor. The thought of other men heating up because of her made him even more indignant. If they were to part ways one day and she went to find another man, he would feel that he was not worthy of her beauty. Not to mention, giving such a beautiful body to another man to soothe. He did not want her body to be contaminated with another man's warmth. "I'm a man. I know how a joke like this affects a man," he ordered. Lin Che was really speechless. However, before she could react, his body had suddenly moved closer. The chauffeur was long gone. His hand was on the car door as he looked at her face. His deep gaze stared into her eyes. His delicate face was fatally seductive. His perfect lips carried his unique scent. He pecked her lips lightly, parted them, and pecked them again. That sexy look caused Lin Che's heart to heat up. He wanted nothing more than to throw himself at this irresistible man, tear off all his clothes, and fuck him. However, she only panted violently as she felt the temperature in the car rise. He said, "Don't underestimate a man's desire." His hand reached into her clothes from behind. With a click, the back was unbuttoned. His thick and strong hand caressed her delicate skin. Then, he couldn't control himself anymore. He bit her ear and said, "You caused it yourself. Solve it yourself." "What?" In the next moment, the back of the chair was pressed down by him, and the two of them fell into the car together. Lin Che's body was itchy from his kiss. She panted and said vaguely, "No, there's someone." "Where is there someone?" he said. She raised her eyes to take a look. She didn't know when, but the crowd had suddenly disappeared. "Hey, where is everyone? Why? Isn't it good that there's no one? Or do you want other people to watch? Get lost. You're the one who wants other people to watch." "No, I just want you to watch." With that said, he kissed her again, passionately. Because of his passion, her mind instantly turned into a pot of porridge. She could only hug his waist tightly, panting and moaning in a daze. The next day, Lin Che's foot was injured, but she still had to go to the company to deal with the aftermath of the new year. Jiyu Jingzi asked someone to send her to the company. Soon, Yu Minmin came to receive her. Seeing her enter in a wheelchair, she was speechless and said, "How did you become like this?" Lin Che said, "Don't mention it. Anyway, I'm very unlucky." Yu Minmin shook her head. "Okay. Oh yeah, this morning, Jiyu Jingyi's people sent you an email saying that he wants you to attend the audition for the female lead in his blockbuster movie." Lin Che said, "Yeah, he told me yesterday." Yu Minmin said, "It's great that you have such an opportunity. Jiyu Jingyu really takes good care of you. He thinks of everything for you. This blockbuster movie isn't an opportunity that just anyone can get. If you really act in it, whether it's your status or your popularity, it will be greatly improved. Not to mention the box office earnings, he will give you a lot of money too." Lin Che said, "Of course I want to participate in it. I haven't actually participated in a movie as the main character, but I did play a lot of small roles in the past. This Jiyu Jingyu takes care of you for no reason, isn't he treating you? Alright, sister you, don't talk nonsense. How could that be? He's really a good friend, and he thinks that my image is suitable." Yu Minmin knew about their relationship, so she stopped teasing her. Lin Che saw the news on the television. It said that Qin Wanwan actually attended the Spring Festival Gala. Chapter 227. On TV, it was said that she would be singing a duet with a famous singer on the Spring Festival Gala. She was also the only one among the 4 most popular female stars to be chosen for the Spring Festival Gala. She had been blossoming recently and her movie would be released soon. She was going to dominate the entire spring festival. Yu Minmin looked at the news and said to Lin Che, "She's really busy lately. She's developing very quickly." Lin Che nodded. "Yeah, I feel like she's developing quite well. Don't even think about it. You can't go on the Spring Festival Gala with that voice of yours. What if she has a good voice? Can't I go and act in a skit?" Lin Che said indignantly, puffing his cheeks. Recently, the comparisons between Lin Che and Qin Wnwan had been increasing. Fans of both sides would quarrel with each other when they had nothing to do, which made people speechless. Now that Qin Wnwan was suddenly able to appear on the Spring Festival Gala, they would probably compare her again. However, Qin Wnwan was indeed a model worker. She had always been in movies and TV shows, and now she was going to appear on the Spring Festival Gala. Although the Spring Festival Gala had always been said to be unpopular and had a bad reputation, many people still used whether or not an artist could appear on the Spring Festival Gala as a benchmark for how popular an artist was. It seemed that an artist who appeared on the Spring Festival Gala would immediately have a different status. Yu Minmin knew that she was just joking, so she ignored her. She only said to her, "Then watch your feet. Let's not care about the Spring Festival Gala anymore. Let's get ready for your audition first." Mo Huiling. After she rushed out of the KTV that day, she stood outside for a long time and cried for a long time, but Jiyu Jingze didn't even come out to see her. She was so angry that she wanted to go back and get even with Jiyu Jingze. But she had already run away. It would be too embarrassing to go back, so she didn't go back in the end. But she was still unwilling to give up and secretly watched Lin Che and Jiyu Jingze's life. At this moment, she was looking at the photos that were sent to her. They were all pictures of Lin Che and Jiyu Jingze being intimate. He actually smiled at Lin Che, hugged Lin Che, and even wrapped such a dirty scarf around Lin Che, the little slut. Mo Huiling felt disgusted. That damned Lin Che had put such a cheap thing on Jiyu Jingze. He was really wasting Jiyu Jingze's body. Naturally, the scene of Jiyu Jingze carrying Lin Che on his back was blocked off by Jiyu Jingze, so her people couldn't follow him. Mo Huiling got up and pushed all the photos on the table to the ground. When Mo Fu saw this, he walked in and shouted at Mo Huiling, "Okay, why are you throwing a tantrum for no reason? You don't have the ability, so stop thinking about it. Why are you asking for trouble?" When Mo Huiling heard this, she vented her anger on her father. "What do you mean I don't have the ability? Jiyu Jingze just slept with this little bitch and was bewitched by her for a moment. Jiyu Jingze has a problem and I can't touch him. That's why this little bitch had the opportunity to take advantage of him. Jingze has no feelings for her, only lust. Look at how lowly this bitch is. She doesn't know anything and is just a lowly bitch. She doesn't deserve to be by Jiyu Jingze's side." Mo Fu's father said, "As long as Jiyu Jingze likes you, he can't touch you. What can you do? Just wait for me to find a suitable man for you so you can get married. Don't be an eyesore at home anymore. I'm not convinced. Even if I can't get him, I won't let Lin Che continue to act innocent and seduce Jiyu Jingze." Humph. Mo Huiling's eyes flashed. She grabbed her bag and ran out. After Lin Che came out of the office, Jiyu Jingze called. Seeing the words "dear husband," Lin Che couldn't help but feel a little sweet in her heart. When she thought of the words, it meant that the handsome, cold and sexy man was actually her husband. She couldn't help but feel that such an outstanding man was actually her husband. It was really unbelievable. She didn't have such a good life. She smiled and picked up the phone. "Let's go out for dinner tonight," Jiyu Jingze said. Lin Che said, "Sure, where are you?" "I still have work to do. Ask the driver to send you to the office and then come up to look for me." "Oh, okay, but I haven't been to the GU Corporation before. I'll be able to find you, right? When it's about time, I'll ask Qin how to pick you up." "Okay then." Lin Che followed the driver and went to the GU Corporation building first. They could see the tall building from afar. It looked very majestic. It was in the most eye-catching position on the street. It seemed to show the special and extraordinary status of the GU Corporation in the whole of B City and this country. It directly reflected the GU Corporation's financial and human resources, which ordinary companies couldn't compare to. Lin Che gasped in admiration. Looking at the low-key but gorgeous English name of the GU Corporation on the building, she suddenly felt that it was very high-end. Soon, they arrived at the place and got out of the car. The driver went to park the car and Lin Che walked in the wheelchair. Actually, she didn't think that she needed a wheelchair at all, but GU Jingza insisted that she sit in it. Fortunately, the wheelchair that she used to use when she was injured was still at home. It was fine if she sat in it, but it made her ankle look like she was disabled. After entering the door, she looked up and asked the receptionist, "Miss, where's President Gu's office?" The receptionist stood on her tiptoes and saw Lin Che in the wheelchair. "Which President Gu are you talking about?" "Gu Jingza," Lin Che said. The receptionist was shocked. Then she sneered and said indifferently, "Do you have an appointment?" "Ah, do I have to make an appointment to see him?" "President Gu can't see him just because you want to. You can't go in without an appointment. Otherwise, there are so many people who want to see President Gu every day. President Gu doesn't have so much time to care about you." The receptionist glared at her and couldn't be bothered to talk to her anymore. Lin Che was dumbfounded. Just when she didn't know what to say, Qin Hao's voice came from behind. "Madam, you're here." When the receptionist saw Qin Hao, she quickly tidied up her hair and looked at Qin Hao in surprise. He said something to Lin Che politely and personally pushed her wheelchair. The receptionist was stunned and looked at Lin Che in astonishment. It was really rare to see someone who could make Assistant Qin compliment him like that. Also, what did Qin Hao just call her? When Qin Hao pushed Lin Che up, Lin Che felt everyone's eyes on her and looked over curiously. Everyone was very respectful to Qin Hao. When they saw him, they lowered their heads and called him Assistant Qin. Only then did Lin Che remember that Shen Yuran had said that Qin Hao was very prestigious in the GU Corporation. Today, she finally saw it for herself. In the past, she just thought that he was an assistant who always followed GU Jingza around. She didn't think that there was anything special about him. Chapter 228. Qin Hao pushed Lin Che inside and said to her, "Madam, please wait for a moment. Sir is dealing with business and will accompany you in a while." "Oh, it's okay. Go ahead with your work, Assistant Qin. I'll just watch from here." It was Lin Che's first time coming to GU Jingza's workplace, so she couldn't help but look around. The entire floor was GU Jingza's office. Outside was the secretary's office. There were more than 10 secretaries in the office, and they were all looking at Lin Che curiously. GU Jingza's independent office was inside. It was black and white, and looked very professional and modern. When Lin Che walked in, GU Jingza was on the phone. He looked at Lin Che and gave her a demonstration. He gestured for her to sit down. Lin Che nodded and leaned against the side. Qin Hao hurriedly brought her books, a computer, and other things for her to play with. After they left, Lin Che leaned against the desk and looked at GU Jingza, who was making phone calls in English, Japanese, Russian, and various other languages. His voice was steady, and he spoke slowly. His expression was sometimes relaxed, and sometimes serious. She could tell that his work was indeed very busy and complicated. He stood up from time to time and stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window. He held the big office chair with one hand and looked outside. His tall and straight figure looked even more attractive against the background of the tall buildings. Lin Che tilted her head and looked at him. For a moment, she thought of a saying, "A serious man is the most handsome." She thought that this man was really good at everything. He was so capable, knew so many languages, and was so handsome. Even when he was angry, he looked so good. He was simply a monster. When GU Jingza turned his head, he saw Lin Che looking at him like a love-struck fool. Looking at her silly smile, GU Jingza was very amused. He looked at her and thought that this woman was really love-struck. It was just that, when ordinary women became infatuated with him, it would make people feel that it was very vulgar and boring. There had always been many women staring at him, and he had always felt disgusted. However, when he saw Lin Che like this, he didn't feel disgusted at all. On the contrary, he felt a sense of satisfaction from being worshipped by her. In short, he did not feel disgusted at all. Perhaps, he was already used to her superficiality. Perhaps, she was really good-looking. Even if she was infatuated with him, she still looked beautiful. Or perhaps, he liked it when she looked at him like this. It made him feel her admiration for him. It was so blatant and undisguised. She had never hidden her true feelings. Perhaps that was why he couldn't dislike her. He couldn't help but smile. "Hey, your saliva fell on the table." Lin Che was startled. She immediately woke up and quickly reached out to touch the corner of her mouth. There was nothing. "Get lost. There's no saliva. If there was any, I would spit." Jiyu Jingze was speechless. However, imagining the disgusting act of spitting saliva into his mouth didn't make him feel disgusted. He did Jiyu. It wasn't that he had not. He had indeed eaten it before. The taste was very fragrant and delicious, making him reminisce about it. Tilting his head, he propped his chin up with one hand and looked at her. "Come on, try spraying it, Lin Mo with Che." At this time, Qin Hao's message suddenly came from outside. President Jiyu Jingze looked up with a dangerous look in his eyes. Jiyu. President Jiyu. Qin Hao immediately realized that he had come in at the wrong time. If he had known, he would have knocked on the door first. However, the matter was quite urgent. "President Jiyu, outside, Assistant Qin, do you need to retrain your language skills?" Jiyu Jingze turned sideways behind the desk and looked up at Qin Hao. Qin Hao immediately said, "All right, President Jiyu, Miss Mo is here. She said that she has something important to discuss with you." "Mo Huiling." Jiyu Jingze's eyes darkened and he couldn't help but look at Lin Che. Lin Che raised his head and blinked in Jiyu Jingze's direction. Jiyu Jingze glared at Qin Hao. Qin Hao had an innocent expression on his face. But he disliked her for being slow, so he gratefully told her. Lin Che said, "If it's not something important, why don't we meet him?" Jiyu Jingze's lips twitched as he looked at Qin Hao. The more he looked at him, the more annoyed he became. After a while, he finally made his move. Qin Hao hurriedly went out to tell him that the person outside was not someone to be trifled with. Not long after, Mo Huiling's voice could be heard. "Jingze, you're finally willing to meet me." Qin Hao didn't have time to warn her. "Miss Mo, the person in the office with President Jiyu right now is..." Mo Huiling pushed the door open. Without Qin Hao's reminder, she had already seen Lin Che sitting on the sofa. Her gaze froze for a moment, then turned sharp. She sneered at Lin Che with disdain. But on the surface, she was calm, but the anger in her heart was indescribable. Jiyu Jingze had actually brought Lin Che to the office. He was a person who separated public and private matters, but he had actually allowed Lin Che to come to the office. She had originally thought that coming to Jiyu Jingze's office would be the safest. Jiyu Jingze would come every day. He was such a responsible person that he would do everything himself. So if she came to the office, she would definitely be able to see Jiyu Jingze. But she didn't expect that this woman, who was dragging them down, was really haunting them. Mo Huiling looked at Jiyu Jingze and gritted her teeth. One day, she would personally chase this woman away, so she endured it. She only raised her head and said to Jiyu Jingze, "There's something important that I want to talk to the two of you about. Is that okay?" Jiyu Jingze looked at Lin Che, who was standing beside him, and then looked at her. "Can't we talk about it here?" Mo Huiling shook her head sadly. "It's about the two of us." "Are you sure you want to talk about it here? About the two of them?" Jiyu Jingze paused for a moment and looked at Mo Huiling. She seemed to be looking at him seriously. Her frail eyes were looking at him helplessly. Jiyu Jingze took a deep breath. This was the last time. Since she had already come looking for him, he couldn't say anything else. So he nodded his head. Mo Huiling immediately smiled happily, but she didn't forget to maintain the fragile expression on her face. She looked at Jiyu Jingze gratefully. Jiyu Jingze walked to Lin Che's side. "Let's have dinner together later. I'll be back soon." Lin Che smiled and nodded. "Go ahead. It's okay." Jiyu Jingze then walked out with Mo Huiling. This time, Jiyu Jingza naturally wouldn't be tricked into going to the place she wanted to go. Mo Hualing also knew that Jiyu Jingza would definitely be more vigilant, so she only said, "Jingza, do you want to completely break up with me?" "Actually, it's nothing. It's just that I want to talk to you about breaking up. I've been with you for so long. I don't want to break up with you just because you said it casually. I won't take you anywhere else, and I'm sure you won't go anywhere else with me. The cafe downstairs is fine, right? This is your territory. What else can I do?" Hearing her say this, Jiyu Jingza stared at her for a while before nodding. Mainly because she said that they wanted to talk about breaking up. He thought that it would be good if the two of them could solve this problem properly. Chapter 229. Jiyu Jingza looked at Mo Hualing and said, "We can talk here. There aren't many people here." Jiyu Jingza really didn't want to go to some uncontrollable place, in case she did something that would put him in a difficult position. But Mo Hualing said, "When we were together, you told me that you wanted to date me at the square in Italy. Now that you've broken up with me, is it in this office corridor? Jiyu Jingza, you're really too cruel." Jiyu Jingza's heart sank. Looking at Mo Hualing, he sighed and said, "All right." She reminded him of the time when they were only 16 or 17 years old. He had naively thought that the two of them could overcome all obstacles, but now, Mo Hualing walked out first. There was no one else in the cafe. Mo Hualing sat down and looked at Jiyu Jingza. "I want to know if you've fallen in love with Lin Che and that's why you want to break up with me completely." Jiyu Jingza was stunned. He looked at Mo Hualing and said, "Hualing, this has nothing to do with us." "Of course it has something to do with me. If it wasn't for Lin Che, would you dare to say that you would still break up with me?" Mo Hualing said, "Just tell me directly if you've fallen in love with Lin Che." Jiyu Jingza didn't know what to say. He had an indescribable feeling towards Lin Che. Was it a habit? Or was it pity? In any case, it was an indescribable feeling. He couldn't describe it. He simply wanted to treat her well. That feeling was completely different from the time he was with Mo Hualing. If his feeling towards Mo Hualing was love, then his feeling towards Lin Che was obviously different. He didn't understand it himself. It was just that right now, he wanted to be with Lin Che and didn't want Lin Che to be away from him. Jiyu Jingza said, "Hualing, it's useless for you to know all this now. How do you want to resolve it? If you want any compensation, I'll give it to you." "I don't want compensation, I just want to say." Mo Hualing's tears streamed down her cheeks. She gazed at Jiyu Jingza and said, "My feelings for you are pure. I don't have any other thoughts. Do you still remember when we were young? I always followed behind you. When you were young, you always called me Little Belle. When I was with you, I could do nothing but listen to music for the whole afternoon. We just looked at each other and didn't feel bored. Our feelings are pure. Although you are bewitched now and want to be with her because you can touch her and sleep with her, you will never find such pure feelings for me again. Don't regret it in the future." Jiyu Jingza frowned when he said that he only had lust for Lin Che. "Lin Che isn't what you think. It's not just lust between us." Hearing his angry words, Mo Hualing only became even more furious. She endured it and didn't want to rush up and beat Lin Che up. "I know what you guys are. Mitch, anyway, you guys will never be as pure as us. Jingza, I'm only here to tell you last. You'll definitely regret it if I tell you this." "You're right." Jiyu Jingza stood up with a whoosh. His tall figure had a cold halo around him. He indifferently strode out, but his arm was grabbed by Mo Hualing. "Jingza." Jiyu Jingza turned around. Mo Hualing turned around and looked at him with tears streaming down her face. "Jingza, do you still remember what you told me? You said that you would marry me in the end. Even if you can't touch me, we will have a way to have children. We will have many children. You will work outside and I will play with the children at home." Jiyu Jingza's heart ached. Now, these words seemed like a joke. At that time, he had only said it casually. He didn't like children. But she kept talking about children, so he said that he could have many children with her. Anyway, she had nothing to do at home and it would be good for her to take care of the children. But really, when they were separated, The words of love in the past seemed cruel. Ji Jingze only had this one relationship with her, so it couldn't be said that he didn't value it. He had spent so much time managing it. His heart softened and he would feel sad. Mo Hualing looked up. Can I hug you again? Just for a while. My dad is going to find a partner for me to marry soon. I don't know if I will have this chance in the future. Ji Jingze's heart skipped a beat. Was she finally going to plan her future with someone else? That was good too. When the time came, she would have a new life and everything would be much better. He nodded. Mo Hualing cried and hugged his waist. After a long time, she sobbed and looked up from his embrace. Ji Jingze tolerated it. Thinking that it was the last time, he didn't reject her. In the end, he slowly pushed her arm away. Ji Jingze said, "Be good in the future. I will go up first." Mo Hualing felt depressed at the thought of him going up to be with Lin Che. But she could only nod obediently. She looked at him sadly as he strode out. She was so angry that she could die. Mo Hualing looked up and saw the surveillance footage in the shop. Her lips curled into a smile and she harumphed. If she didn't have a good time, Lin Che wouldn't have a good time either. In the office, Lin Che was sitting there reading a book. Qin Hao watched nervously from the side. Seeing that Lin Che didn't seem to be acting strange and was just reading, he admired her endurance. Seeing that Ji Jingze wasn't back yet, Qin Hao walked over and said, "Madam, do you want to eat something first?" Lin Che looked up and smiled. "It's okay." But after waiting for a while, Ji Jingze still hadn't come up. He was afraid that she would be unhappy if it was past mealtime. Qin Hao said, "I hope Madam can understand that Sir is only so indecisive. Everything else is fine, but Miss Mo. Fortunately, Sir only wants to treat Madam well. I hope, Madam, it's hard for you to speak up for your Sir. I didn't do anything. Do I look angry to you?" He really didn't. Lin Che said, "All right, I'm not angry. Go do your work. You don't have to look at me in fear." Qin Hao looked at Lin Che and felt that his impression of him was getting better and better. He wasn't as unreasonable as Mo Hualing, and he had such a good temper and was so polite to him. Qin Hao said, "Madam, you can rest here." After Qin Hao left, Lin Che looked outside and let out a long sigh. Although he was still holding onto the book in his hand, he had been reading this page for half an hour and he still hadn't flipped it. She looked outside. This man, he said he would be back in a while. Was he not coming back? But even if he didn't come back, it was understandable. Maybe he would get so engrossed in the conversation that he wouldn't care anymore. She just hoped that he wouldn't end up in the hospital again. Just then, Ji Jingze finally came in. He walked over to Lin Che and said, "You're back. Let's go eat." Chapter 230. He smiled. Although he felt much more relaxed just now, he was still a little sad after hearing Mo Hualing's words. He couldn't tell why he was sad. Maybe it was because everything was over and he felt sad. Maybe he just didn't understand when he had become such a man. He had thought that he had to have her, but in the end, he didn't persist. He had always thought that he was a man of principle. Once he made up his mind, he wouldn't change and he wouldn't hurt her. But in the end, he still hurt Huiling and Lin Che. He felt like he had become the man he despised. He took a deep breath and reached out to push Lin Che's wheelchair. Lin Che said, "Are you still going to eat?" "Actually, there's nothing much I want to eat. Otherwise, it's okay. There's a new restaurant over there. Let's go and see if it's good." "Oh, okay." Hearing Ji Jingze's words, she could only nod. Ji Jingze pushed Lin Che out from the corridor to the secretary's office. The people around them saw this scene and all turned to look at them. Ji Jingze was always followed by a few bodyguards. When the group of people went out, they only pushed Lin Che, who didn't fit in with the atmosphere at the back. It was very eye-catching. In a short while, the company's internal forum was in an uproar. Everyone knew that Ji Jingze had a girlfriend before. It was Mo Hualing, who matched his social status. But the person being pushed by Ji Jingze today was obviously not her. Why did President Ji change his girlfriend? President Gu treats his girlfriend very well and is very attentive. He even pushes her, but why is she still a cripple? Oh my god, President Gu changed his girlfriend without saying a word. Why didn't he say so earlier? If he had, I would have gone up first. Stop dreaming. There are a lot of people in the company. You won't be able to get in. President Gu is really beautiful. I don't know how the people in the CEO's office on the rooftop can continue working if they keep looking at President Gu every day. To answer the question above, someone who didn't work properly and kept looking at President Gu was directly thrown out by President Gu's bodyguard. He fractured his femur and was fired. After that, we all started to work properly and stopped looking at President Gu. Is that for sure? President Gu's bodyguards aren't fake. Anyone who tries to get close to President Gu is definitely looking for death. Don't you know who President Gu is? How can an ordinary person get close to him? Gu Jingze pushed Lin Che. Lin Che lowered his head in embarrassment when he saw everyone's eyes flickering and looking at him. Fortunately, Gu Jingze's private elevator arrived soon. When they got off, Gu Jingze gave them a look to tell them not to follow so closely. Gu Jingze got into the car. He didn't say anything on the way. In the past, Lin Che would chatter non-stop. But this time, he didn't seem to have anything to say. He just looked ahead. She could feel that Gu Jingze's mood had been gloomy ever since he came back. Even though he didn't say it out loud, she was deeply affected by it. After entering the restaurant, the owner of the restaurant politely escorted Gu Jingze and Lin Che to the best private room in the restaurant after passing through a special passage. The private room was so exquisite that it left one speechless. After Lin Che sat down, she looked at Gu Jingze. Gu Jingze smiled at her. Are you cold? If it's cold, I'll get someone to turn on the air conditioner. Gu Jingze. Seeing that Gu Jingze was about to get up, Lin Che stopped him and said, There's no need to trouble yourself. I'm not cold. Are you unhappy? If not, let's go back. Don't eat. No, we still have to eat, Gu Jingze said. All right, looking at your stinky face makes me have indigestion. It's better not to eat. Lin Che pushed her wheelchair and stopped at the side to look at him. Gu Jingze was stunned. He raised his hand and touched his chin. Of course, he didn't know whether it was stinky or not. He just raised his head and looked at Lin Che's helpless face. In the end, he took a deep breath and said seriously, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you. Lin Che's lips twitched. It's okay. Didn't you have a good chat with Miss Mo? Gu Jingze only shook his head. No, it was good. Then why did you? It's just that Hui Ling and I ended up like this because of me. I know that, but I can't do anything about it. You might think that I'm indecisive, but I still blame myself. That's the Hui Ling you see now, but the Hui Ling I saw in the past wasn't like this, so, Lin Che's lips twitched again. Then he laughed heartily and said, Of course I know. She's different in front of me than in front of the person she loves. No, I shouldn't have talked about her with you. Gu Jingze shook his head and told himself not to be so sullen. You have no obligation to take responsibility for my matters, and you have no obligation to listen to my complaints. Why would I? Lin Che said, even friends can listen to each other's complaints. Moreover, you can't be together, because of me. No, it has nothing to do with you. It's my problem. I know, he said. Lin Che wanted to say something, but when he saw his sullen face, he felt that he couldn't bring himself to say it. If she hadn't appeared, everything wouldn't have been so bad. He and Mo Hualing would have been married a long time ago. Their child might have been born soon. It was still related to her after all. But that was their own business. She had no right to participate in it. So, in the end, she was still an outsider. She was between the two of them, but she couldn't walk into their world. Lin Che laughed dryly. Gu Jingze raised his head and said to Lin Che, I'm sorry. I was in a bad mood, so you couldn't eat. Don't worry, it's okay. You have so many problems, but I still put up with them. This is a small matter. I'll just treat it as your period coming. Period? Gu Jingze frowned. Lin Che laughed loudly. Thinking that he definitely didn't know, he covered his mouth and explained, when girls have their period, they call it their period, so men call it their period? Jiyu Jingza's face darkened. Lin Che laughed so hard that she rocked back and forth. She didn't care about her image at all. Her feet were already on the wheelchair, and she hugged her knees as she looked at Jiyu Jingza. Jiyu Jingza glanced at her feet. She noticed it and remembered that she couldn't help being a tomboy again. She apologized to him. But thinking that she wasn't a tomboy, he wouldn't mind anyway, so she didn't care about her image anymore. She continued to put her feet on the wheelchair, looked at Jiyu Jingza, and said, "Are we still eating?" Jiyu Jingza sighed. He knew that he had affected her, so he could only continue to say, "I'm sorry." Lin Che said carelessly, "If you really feel sorry for me." Chapter 231. She said, "Go shopping with me later and buy some stuff for me." Buy stuff? Yeah. Shopping can alleviate all unhappiness, Lin Che said. Jiyu Jingza didn't quite understand, but he agreed anyway. "Okay, you can buy anything you want later." Lin Che clapped and said, "Okay, I won't be polite with you later." "Why are you so greedy? I'm not a rich girl." "It's okay for me to be greedy," Lin Che said. Jiyu Jingza's face darkened. Lin Che pouted. Why did he bring up a rich girl for no reason? She was sad because of Mo Hualing just now. She smiled and said, "I mean, it's because I'm poor." Jiyu Jingza glared at her. She only knew how to complain about being poor. They ate a few mouthfuls of food, but neither of them had much of an appetite. After they went out, Lin Che aimlessly bought things in the mall. She didn't have anything to buy for herself, so she bought some for Shen Yuran and Yu Minmin. Soon, she couldn't carry any more things. Shopping with Jiyu Jingza was really fun. He didn't care about the price. He asked the people to pack everything up as soon as he walked in. Soon, he finished shopping at a place he was interested in. Soon, they arrived at a high-class gold shop. Jiyu Jingza stopped and looked inside. "Aren't you going in to take a look?" Lin Che looked around. The things inside must be very expensive. She didn't want to spend too much money. "I don't think so. I don't wear jewelry. It's okay. Let's go in." He looked at Lin Che. Although she was a greedy girl, she didn't seem to wear anything expensive. As he spoke, he had already pushed Lin Che inside. The shop looked very high-end, different from ordinary jewelry shops. The shop assistant didn't recognize Jiyu Jingza and Lin Che, who wanted to keep a low profile, as he was wearing a mask. However, judging from the imposing manner of the people following behind them, he knew they were not customers to be trifled with. Looking at the professional bodyguards, the shop assistant realized that they had never met such powerful people since the opening of the gold shop. So, he was even more respectful and careful towards them. Lin Che had never enjoyed such treatment before. As soon as he entered the door, he was brought to the VIP area. The shop assistant was a beautiful lady, and there was also a store manager who seemed to have an illusion to her. "What would you like to see?" How would Lin Che know? Jiyu Jingza looked at Lin Che and said, "What good stock do you have? Show it to us first." Hearing this, the manager turned around and whispered to the staff to bring the VVIPs over. Seeing that the manager attached so much importance to it, the shop assistant hurriedly asked someone to do it. After a while, a few people walked in. On the tray, there were jade pendants and rings. Lin Che looked at so many things at once that he was a little dazzled. "This ring is so beautiful. This pendant is beautiful too. Hey, is this a Rui jade? Where should I put it?" The shop assistant explained everything to Lin Che. Jiyu Jingza said, "If you like them, you can pick a few." Lin Che turned around. "Can I?" "Of course." Lin Che looked at the flawless item written in emerald green. He thought to himself that it would probably be very expensive. "Forget it, I don't usually wear it." "Then you can start wearing it now." As he spoke, he held her hand and looked at the small ring in the middle. Although it was small, it was very exquisite. It was so smooth and round that no one could find a single flaw. Most importantly, it was very pleasing to the eye. He picked it up and compared it to Lin Che's finger. Holding her hand, He slowly slipped the ring into her finger. The emerald green ring looked very beautiful on her fair finger. The shop assistant couldn't help but praise, "Madam's hand is so beautiful." Jiyu Jingze had heard a lot of compliments, but this was the first time he felt happy about it. Praising Lin Che seemed to make him feel happier than praising him. He smiled and pulled Lin Che's hand to take a look. It was indeed very beautiful. Compared to some of the beautiful girls present, her hand was even more outstanding. Every knuckle seemed to be very smooth and round. It was so cute. However, there were still some thorns on her palm. When he opened her palm, he could see some marks on it. Jiyu Jingze thought that her status in the Lin family wasn't very good. These marks were probably left behind when she was doing housework and helping the nanny. His heart dimmed a little. He looked up and said to the manager, "We'll take this." The manager was naturally happy. "Sir, you have good taste. This is the best item in our store." Jiyu Jingze smiled, not listening to the manager's boast. "It doesn't matter if it's good or not. I like it. Wrap it up for me." The manager immediately did it. The shop assistant wanted to wrap it up for her, but Jiyu Jingze said, "It's okay. Let her wear it." Lin Che looked up. Jiyu Jingze said, "Didn't you buy it to wear?" Lin Che looked at him and smiled happily. She looked down at her fingers and felt that they were even more beautiful. But it was too expensive and she felt bad for it. The shop assistant smiled at the two of them and said, "Sir, you treat Madam so well. We're so jealous." "Madam, you're really lucky." Lin Che looked up at Jiyu Jingze. Yes, she was lucky to have met Jiyu Jingze. Jiyu Jingze smiled. He felt that such a compliment made him feel happy, especially when he heard that he treated his wife well. This was the first time he had heard such a compliment, but it was thought-provoking. A different kind of pride slowly spread in his heart. After being sent off by the people in the jewelry store, Jiyu Jingze looked at the ring on Lin Che's hand. She looked down and looked at it. Even though she said no, she was actually very happy. He said, "All right, stop looking. You won't be able to do anything if you keep looking. It's so expensive. It's the price of a house. I feel like I'm wearing a house on my hand. Of course I have to look at it more." Jiyu Jingze looked at her. No matter how careless she was still a girl. Jiyu Jingze thought that their marriage was actually a very careless thing. There was no wedding gown, no wedding ring, and no wedding. He felt a little guilty. He looked at Lin Che's hand. He didn't even buy her a diamond ring. He looked at Lin Che. "Lin Che, actually, do you want a wedding?" Chapter 232. When Lin Che heard the word wedding, she looked up in surprise. "Wedding? What wedding?" Jiyu Jingze looked down at her. "Because when we get married, you won't have anything. When other people get married, they will have a wedding ring, and a wedding dress, but you won't have anything." Hearing this, Lin Che understood. Forget it. Why would I want a wedding? They were a fake marriage. Why would they have a wedding? Then when they got divorced in the future, would they have a divorce ceremony? Forget it. There's no need to go through so much trouble. "I don't want a wedding." Jiyu Jingze said, "Lin Che, if you want a wedding, tell me. We can actually have one. There's really no need. I hate trouble the most. Weddings are just a formality. What era is it now? Do you feel guilty about having a wedding?" Jiyu Jingze saw the disdain in her eyes. It was as if he was an antique from a different era. He felt a little depressed. He looked at her and said, "I do feel guilty. You should have a wedding too. Isn't a wedding a very important thing in a woman's heart? Everyone has one, but you can't have one. It's not fair to you." Lin Che waved her hand speechlessly. "Forget it. We agreed not to have a wedding and I haven't changed my mind. If you really feel guilty, just buy me something nice." Jiyu Jingze looked at her helplessly. "Okay." Jiyu Jingze pushed Lin Che up. Lin Che smiled and turned back to look at Jiyu Jingze. "You really think too much. Actually, I don't have anything to do with it." Jiyu Jingze glared at her. "Yes, you're so heartless." But she didn't want what everyone else wanted. It was really puzzling. Jiyu Jingza didn't have much experience with women. If she didn't want it, then so be it. He could only keep it in his heart and didn't say anything else. On the way out, Lin Che was still looking down at the ring. Actually, she really didn't like wearing jewelry, but she was still very happy when she thought that the ring should be quite expensive. Of course, this was a gift from Jiyu Jingza. Holding it in her hand, she thought that although Jiyu Jingza felt sorry and gave it to her as compensation, he still felt sorry. However, Jiyu Jingza didn't know why his mood was fluctuating so much today. Lin Che said, "Jiyu Jingza, if you have anything on your mind, you can tell me. It's okay for me to be your trash can." Jiyu Jingza said, "Nothing. Really? I'm a little guilty after taking such an expensive gift from you. Tell me quickly so that I can feel at ease." Jiyu Jingza lowered his head and looked at Lin Che. "But when I spoke to Hui Ling today, she said she wouldn't harass me anymore." That's not a big deal. I've thought about it before. Our relationship should have ended a long time ago. It's not good for the two of us. But today, when she talked about our past, I felt a little guilty. Lin Che nodded in understanding and said, "You've known Miss Mo since you were young. Have you been together since you were young?" "Of course not. She followed me around and always called me Brother Jingza. At first, I only cared about my career. I studied with a tutor at home and had to deal with the family business. I was always very busy, but she always followed me around. No matter where I went, she would accompany me. So, when we were in Italy, I went to the square to look at pigeons. I told her that we should try dating." He paused and said, "I was 17 then." Hearing that Jiyu Jingza had been so busy since he was young, Lin Che felt a little sorry for him. It seemed that being a tycoon wasn't easy. Lin Che said, "That's very simple." It seemed that Mo Hualing was also infatuated with him, to be able to follow him for so long. "Miss Mo is really devoted to you. I don't have the heart to follow a man for so long." Jiyu Jingza looked at her and said, "You say it as if you've never liked that sissy." "Hey, Qin Qing isn't a sissy." Hearing Lin Che defend Qin Qing so fiercely, he was really depressed. If she's not a sissy, then what is she? In any case, she's not. You're so protective and you still say you don't have the heart. Jiyu Jingza's eyes were somewhat disdainful. He snorted, completely disdainful of Qin Qing. "I don't have the heart. I didn't follow him for so long. Of course, I don't have the leisure of a rich girl. At that time, it was already good enough for me to have a full stomach. I had to go through fire and water every day. Love and what not were all luxuries. Even if I had a crush on him, I didn't even confess my feelings." Jiyu Jingza lowered his head and looked at her deeply. Then he said, "I'm usually too busy, so I didn't take care of Hualing. That's why it's been delayed until now. If I had told my family earlier that I wouldn't marry anyone but her, my family wouldn't have been so ruthless. So, this matter is indeed my fault. It has nothing to do with you." "All right." Lin Che looked at him and said, "This is called passing by. It's so sad. I want to write a script for you too." Jiyu Jingza looked at this unscrupulous woman. "But it's all in the past. The way I treat her now is different from before." Lin Che's eyes moved. She didn't want to hear him talk about his feelings for her. She was a little resistant. It was fine if he knew about their past, but she didn't want to hear such detailed things about his feelings for her. "No, you don't have to tell me about your love life. I'm not interested," she said, her voice a little shaky. Jiyu Jingza looked at her and said, "No, I want to tell you, Lin Che. I can't be sure what I feel for you, but I'm sure that it's different from Hui Ling's. I can't give you a normal marriage, nor can I be a perfect husband. I can't give you full love. The only thing I can do is be honest with you." Lin Che's heart sank slightly. The sourness almost burst out of her eyes, but she didn't cry. It wasn't worth crying just because it was like this. She smiled and said, "All right, then I'll respect your choice. I'll also be honest with you." Jiyu Jingza looked at her and said, "What? How do you feel about me?" I finally have a sexual feeling for you." Ha 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 ha. Jiyu Jingza's face darkened completely. This woman was too, Jiyu Jingza said, You're so thirsty, and you're only telling me now. If you had told me earlier, I would have let you use it long ago. Lin Che said, You're the one who's thirsty. This is a joke. You know I'm not good at joking. Then, tell me, are you satisfied with it? Jiyu Jingze looked down at her. When he asked the question with that serious expression, it made her face heat up unconsciously. I'm not telling you. Humph. Jiyu Jingze said, Not telling me? But I want to ask. Hurry up and tell me. I'm not telling you. I'm so annoyed. I'm going home. She pushed the wheelchair forward. Jiyu Jingze hurried over and held the wheelchair. Why are you running? You said it first. I was wrong, all right? All right, I forgive you, but you have to compensate me when we get back. Lin Che glared at him. She wondered why he wasn't as melancholic as before. Were all men animals that thought with their lower bodies? Chapter 233. When they got home, Jiyu Jingze went to the bathroom first. Because of Lin Che's feet. Actually, he was very obedient last night. Lin Che leaned against the bed and was playing with her phone. She heard a ding sound. Someone had sent her a message. She opened the message, and what she saw was a video. After opening it, the video was a little blurry, but she clearly saw what happened today. It was Mo Hualing and Jiyu Jingze. The two of them hugged each other tightly in the cafe. From this angle, Mo Hualing was snuggling in Jiyu Jingze's arms reluctantly, and Jiyu Jingze was also a little reluctant to let her go, wrapping his arms around her back. Lin Che bit his lower lip and looked at his phone. His heart felt stifled for no reason. Then, he sneered and a thought popped up in his mind. Jiyu Jingze was so reluctant to part with her, but he was still happily with her. Maybe the desire of the body was really powerful. She closed her eyes. She didn't know if she should feel happy that she was so charming that Jiyu Jingze was so attached to her body, or sad that she had become a toy for others to play with. After a while, she regained her calmness. Who sent this to her? Except for Mo Hualing, she couldn't think of anyone else. She was angry just now because she thought so badly of herself and Jiyu Jingze. But in fact, she had known Jiyu Jingze for so long. Didn't she know that Jiyu Jingze was definitely not such a person? And she was definitely more than a toy. She looked down on herself too much. She wrapped herself in the quilt, deleted the video, and looked at the shining chandelier on the ceiling. However, there was one thing that Mo Hualing was right about. After all, Jiyu Jingze had been in love with her for so many years. Maybe he was really reluctant to let her go. When Jiyu Jingze came back, he saw that Lin Che seemed to have fallen asleep. He walked over quietly and looked at the side. The ring had been put down. He picked up the ring and looked at it. He felt that the ring was really beautiful and suited her. But it seemed that she really didn't like wearing things. Not only that, but when he thought about it carefully, he realized that she had bought so many things, but she hadn't used them at all. Although she looked like a miser, she didn't seem to care about them at all. This woman was really a little confusing. Maybe women liked the feeling of the moment of shopping? Or was the miser just her last line of defense? The next day, Lin Che arrived at the company. Yu Minmin said to Lin Che, I've prepared an interview program for you before Chinese New Year. Do you want to participate? Yes, I'll participate in any program, Lin Che said. Yu Minmin felt that Lin Che was different today. What's wrong? Lin Che said, What do you mean? I want to earn money. I want to participate in anything that can earn money. Ha, Mrs. Jiyu, do you still need money? Yu Minmin snorted. In the beginning, she might have thought that she was a money grubber, but after getting to know her, she finally understood that this silly girl was just too naive. Who knows when I'll get a divorce? Sigh, my position as Mrs. Jiyu isn't that easy to stabilize. Rich families run deep. Sigh, you don't even know how much I've suffered in a rich family. I've suffered so much in a rich family that I could write a novel about a sadomasochistic relationship. Get lost. Yu Minmin said, You're still sadomasochistic. What should we do then? Forget it if you don't believe me. Oh right. Lin Che remembered the things he had bought for her. These are for you. Clothes, bags, and these. Try them on and see if you like them. I didn't see them clearly yesterday, so I just bought them randomly. Yu Minmin flipped them open in surprise. They were all international brand names. They were extremely expensive and only used by rich people. Why did you buy me this? Do you think it's good for a working class person like me to use these? I had no choice. My husband is rich and he insisted on spending for me. Rich people like us are so poor. If we don't spend some money, it won't be worth it. Just take them. Yu Minmin still felt that she was different today. However, she was full of smiles and was as carefree as usual. It was hard to tell what she was thinking. However, as Yu Minmin flipped through the things, she couldn't help but exclaim, "It's so expensive. Oh my God, it's so good to have a rich husband. Oh my God, this is so expensive. I think I'll keep it at home and not dare to take it out. People will think that I've suddenly gotten rich and come to rob me." Yu Minmin looked for a while. She didn't have any desire for these brand names. It was just that they looked very novel. After receiving them and thanking Lin Che, she said, "Oh yes, someone came with your contact information. He said that you recommended him to work." Lin Che then remembered that it was the little girl from the other day. He quickly said, "Ah, yes, I met her on the way. I wanted to say that she has a very pitiful life. If I can help her, I will." The two of them went out together. As they walked, Lin Che told Yu Minmin about the situation that day. When they went out, they saw the girl sitting carefully at the door. Seeing Lin Che, she quickly stood up. "Oh my God, you're Lin Che. No wonder I thought you looked so familiar that day. I just didn't dare to recognize you." The girl exclaimed excitedly, "Actually, I'm usually too busy and don't have time to watch television. That's why I don't recognize you. Otherwise, with how popular you are, I definitely wouldn't forget you." Lin Che smiled as he walked over. "It's okay. Celebrities usually look a little different on TV than in real life. On TV, they look a little bigger, taller, and fairer. Haha, if I don't put on makeup in private, I look a little different." "How could that be? I think that you look much better now than on TV, sister." She smiled as she covered her mouth and said, "I didn't even know that I would meet a big celebrity. I only found out today." Lin Che waited for her to calm down before introducing Yu Minmin to her. He even said to her, "If you want to come, you can start as an assistant. It's a very tough job. If you're sure that you're willing to do it, you can try for a few days. If you can't adapt, you can leave. I'll still pay you according to the number of days you work." "I can adapt. Of course I can adapt. I'm not that fragile. I can take any hardship. I'm very happy to be an assistant." Hearing this, Yu Minmin said, "All right then. You can come with me to report later." The girl's name was Yang Lingshin. Everyone could just call her Little Shin. Yu Minmin went out to look at the girl. Looking around, he said to Lin Che, "She's quite smart. If she does well in the future, maybe I can groom her." "Really? Anyway, I met her by chance. I think she's quite cute." Yu Minmin said, "You're really kind. That's for sure. I'm such a kind person, yet no man is interested in me. Sigh, I'm just a bit of a tomboy. Men say that they like kind girls, but in the end, they still like those gentle ones. They don't even notice my inner beauty at all." Chapter 234. After that, Lin Che called Shen Yuran and told her that he would get someone to send it to her. Shen Yuran said that she would come and get it. It was rare for her to have a day off, so she came to see Lin Che's workplace. Many people were coming and going. When Shen Yuran arrived, Yu Minmin went to pick her up. When she came in, Lin Che was already ready to go for the interview. When Shen Yuran saw Lin Che, she took out the bag in her hand and showed it to him. "This must be expensive, Lin Che." Lin Che just looked at it. He had been a little absent-minded yesterday and had forgotten what he had bought. "I think so," Shen Yuran said, "but I can't let that ungrateful sister take it away. I was almost cheated by her." Lin Che said, "Why would she ask you for it? She wanted to buy it herself." I spent a lot of effort to get it from Gu Jingza. Shen Yuran said, yeah, I told her that you gave her to her. She was very envious and even asked if you needed an assistant here. I told her that I didn't need one. She even wanted to say that she came to your company to apply for a job. You'd better tell your company that if she comes, don't hire her. Yu Minmin said, our company is indeed looking for an assistant, but it's hard work and the salary isn't that high. So she would never do it. She's just asking for trouble. She's lazy and greedy. How could she do such a thing? Yu Minmin laughed. She's your sister after all. If it's possible, you can let her try. Please don't. Lin Che knows my sister. She's a piece of work. Don't let her harm you. Lin Che nodded. Yuran won't stand on ceremony with me. If she says it's not good, then it's not good. Yu Minmin shrugged. All right then. Let's get ready. We'll go for the interview. Shen Yuran asked, are you going to participate in a show? Yu Minmin nodded. Talk shows aren't that good these days. People are starting to like those self-made talk shows on websites. We're going to participate in one of the more popular talk shows recently. It's called Celebrity Show. I reckon there will be a few people participating. Wow, Celebrity Show. I was watching it last night. I didn't expect Lin Che to participate in it. Lin Che said, yeah. Shen Yuran's face was full of excitement as he followed her outside. It seems that a lot of celebrities have participated in that show. In the past, Gu Jingyu participated, Mu Feiran also participated, and that Song Shu Hai from your company also participated. You're really a big shot now, participating in such a popular show. Lin Che said, come on. Those big shots that you mentioned were all interviewed by themselves. I think they were interviewed with a few other people. That's different. Is that so? Then you have to work hard too. One day, you will also go for an interview alone. Haha, yes, I will continue to work hard. Lin Che followed Yu Minmin and Shen Yuran. He saw that young Lingxin was still working there. Her movements were very agile. She learned from another old assistant and got the hang of it very quickly. Yu Minmin asked her to follow him, saying that they were going to the big family show together. She followed behind happily, as if she had endless energy. Yu Minmin said to Lin Che, looks like he's really serious and a very capable person. Yeah, I can't be wrong about the person I like. When they reached the backstage of the big family show, there were already a few actors who were being interviewed. They were all familiar faces, some of whom he had seen before and some of whom he had never seen before. Someone saw Lin Che and quickly stood up to invite him into a private dressing room. Lin Che smiled at them and entered. When he entered, he saw that Qin Wanwan was already inside. Hey, I just came in. The director told me that you would be coming. I was wondering when you would come. Qin Wanwan was halfway through her makeup. She looked at Lin Che and said with a smile. Lin Che said, I can't come because someone can't come. I'm just filling in. I don't even know who will be coming today. After the two sat down, they casually chatted as they did their makeup. Qin Wanwan said, your TV series has been very popular recently. I see that the ratings have always been #1, and the number of people discussing it on Weibo is also very high. Lin Che said, isn't the online discussion wave after wave? It's popular now, and after a while, it's popular again. Isn't your movie going to be released soon? Yeah, I'm going to ride on the hype. It's a suspense movie. I don't know if it will do well at the box office. It will definitely do well at the box office. Oh right, have you heard the news? Gu Jingyu is going to make a fantasy movie. He bought the rights to a game. It's called A Swordsman. He's going to make it into a blockbuster movie. I think it will be very popular. Oh, I've heard about it, Lin Che said. Qin Wanwan said, I wonder who the main character will be. I heard that they haven't chosen a role yet. Why didn't Gu Jingyu just let you play it? Lin Che smiled. Why did he let me play it directly? He has to see if the role is suitable or not. If it's really not suitable, it's useless for me to play it. Senior Jingyu is a serious person. He won't choose a role based on personal relationships. That's true, Qin Wanwan said. If he wasn't serious, his reputation wouldn't have been so good. Someone came in from outside to see how the two of them were doing with their makeup. Lin Che came later, but he was done first. Her makeup had always been very simple, and she went for the home style. Qin Wanwan had to do more retouching, and her complexion was a little pale. Perhaps it was because she liked to go out to play at night, but her complexion was obviously not as good as Lin Che's. After the show started and the opening music started, Lin Che and Qin Wanwan were already seated in the main seats. There were a few other small-time actors sitting on one side, but their statuses were obviously lower than Lin Che and Qin Wanwan's. The chairs given to them were large, round chairs while the others were small, high stools. This was also the specialty of the show. These people knew that they weren't as famous as Lin Che and Qin Wanwan. They were known as the new Four Little Stars, but their fame had already spread and they just needed a little more time. The host smiled as he looked at the few of them and said, "It's our honor to see you here today, especially when we see two beauties sitting here." Lin Che smiled at the side. He could see that Shun Yuran and Yu Minmin were watching them intently from below the stage. Shun Yuran raised her fist to cheer her on. Lin Che smiled back at her. The host chatted for a long time. The main interviewees were Lin Che and Qin Wanwan. He looked at Lin Che and Qin Wanwan and said, "The two of you are very famous friends in the industry. Do you see each other often?" "Yeah, we go out and sit together occasionally, just like normal friends. Anyway, we'll gossip when we see each other," Qin Wanwan said. The host asked Qin Wanwan, "What's Lin Che like in private?" "He's very shy and innocent." Qin Wanwan looked at Lin Che and smiled. Chapter 235. Lin Che smiled back at her. The MC smiled and said, "Wanwan and Lin Che have actually worked with Jiyu Jingyu before." "Yeah," Lin Che said. The MC looked at Lin Che. "Are you jealous of Wanwan and Jingyu? When you worked together before, you were always in that position." "Of course I'm jealous. Jingyu is so handsome, but my Hifeng is also very handsome." She laughed as she talked about the male lead of the TV series she had been working with recently and started promoting him. Now that Lin Che had gone through some training, he was better at dealing with reporters than before. He was also more tactful with his words and could use the TV series he was playing to promote himself. Sure enough, the more training one had, the more experience one would have. The MC looked at Lin Che. "Alright then, did you know about the scandal between Qin Wanwan and Jiyu Jingyu?" Qin Wanwan quickly stopped her. Alright. I already said it was a scandal. Why do you have to say it?" Lin Che looked at Qin Wanwan. She was blushing and looked very shy. She smiled and held Lin Che's arm, looking helpless and speechless. "Really? Lin Che, I know you're the worst at lying. Why don't you say it?" When Lin Che heard that, he looked at Qin Wanwan. He really didn't know what to say. If she said the wrong thing, it would be used against her in the future. She thought about it and said, "That's possible. After all, we've been filming for a few months and we see each other every day. We also have to act together. It's easy to develop feelings for each other." She gave an ambiguous answer and the MC could only let her go. She said to Qin Wanwan, "Since you're good friends in private, you must know a lot about each other. Wanwan, tell us first. Does Lin Che have a boyfriend or not?" Qin Wanwan looked shocked. "Wow, you're asking such a big question right off the bat." Qin Wanwan smiled at Lin Che. "How should I say this?" Lin Che widened his eyes and looked at her. Of course he didn't. The MC raised her voice in surprise. "What? You don't know how to say it? Does that mean there's a situation?" "Not really." Qin Wanwan quickly corrected herself. "I mean, I shouldn't be the one saying this. You should be asking Lin Che. Shouldn't be you saying this. Does that mean there really is one?" Lin Che looked at the host, who looked as if he had discovered a new continent, and said, "Lin Che, do you have a boyfriend? Congratulations, who is it?" Lin Che blushed and looked at Qin Wanwan. He didn't expect her to say that. Because she didn't expect it, she was flustered and didn't know how to answer. He could only look at the host and laugh dryly. She did have a man. Ji Jingza was her husband, but she couldn't expose their relationship. However, if she said no, what if something was accidentally exposed in the future? Her lie today might bring about some negative impact on her. He couldn't admit it, nor did he dare to deny it. Her eyes darted around. Seeing that everyone's gazes were on her, she gritted her teeth and said, I have a lot of boyfriends. If I want to change a TV series, I'll just change my boyfriend. I'm trying my best to get all the little fresh meats in the entertainment industry to sleep with. So, directors and scriptwriters, if there's any such TV series, remember to look for me. As long as there are little fresh meats, I'll give you guys a discount. Ha 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 ha. The host burst into laughter again. However, he didn't let her off the hook. He stared at Lin Che and asked, So you really don't have any? Lin Che said, No, no one is chasing me. Do they think I don't have any meat? Actually, I have quite a lot of meat. You can only see it after I take it off. The people present burst into laughter at her bold words again. Lin Che, on the other hand, was sweating profusely. She comforted herself that the host was talking about her boyfriend. She really didn't have a boyfriend. Ji Jingza was her husband, not her boyfriend. She thought that she would say that if she were to be exposed one day. Qin Wanwan was still smiling at her. When the show ended, she looked at Lin Che and said, Lin Che, I'm sorry. I was a little flustered when the host suddenly asked me, but luckily I didn't say it out loud. Luckily, you handled it. It's okay, Lin Che said politely. I don't have a boyfriend anyway. Aya, what are you doing with Ji Jingyu? Qin Wanwan winked at her and smiled. Lin Che said, That's a misunderstanding. Ji Jingyu likes to spout nonsense. Alright. You guys know whether it's true or not, so I won't get involved. However, if this were to be exposed, wouldn't you and him be even more popular? Why don't you guys expose it? Is there some kind of insider information? Because we really don't. Lin Che said helplessly. Qin Wanwan said, Forget it. I won't ask if you don't want to tell me. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone else. You and Ji Jingyu should be in a good relationship. I won't tell anyone, but you guys will have to announce it sooner or later. You might as well announce it so that I can celebrate it openly. I really don't. Forget it, I won't explain anymore. The more I explain, the more confusing it will be. After separating from Qin Wanwan, Yu Minmin came over and said, What's wrong with her? Why did she suddenly bring this up? Lin Che said, I'm not sure either. Shun Yuran said from behind, Do you even need to ask? She must be trying to make things difficult for Lin Che on purpose. Why do I feel that she's so evil? She must be trying to make trouble for you. She'll be happy when she sees you stuttering and not knowing how to answer. Or, if you get anxious and say something that you shouldn't say, she'll be happy. Lin Che looked outside and took a deep breath. Forget it. Yu Minmin said, It's okay. Anyway, you've dealt with it. Lin Che, you've been performing well recently. You've improved in terms of adapting to the situation. I was forced to do something beyond my abilities. I don't know what to say at the moment. Shun Yuran said, The circle of the rich is really messy. They're always getting shot at. It's much more scheming than our office. Forget it. Do you think you're acting in a harem? Scheming against each other, Lin Che said as he looked at the young girl. A few days later, the show started to air. Because online programs tended to be a little more extreme, her words weren't edited and were directly broadcasted. Then, very quickly, it started to spread on the internet. Lin Che was sitting in the nanny van when he saw people commenting on the internet. After watching Lin Che's words, they felt that Lin Che was too funny. His words were too dirty, but they liked it. After that, the show also left a strong response on the internet. It became the episode with the highest viewership ratings in recent times, apart from the episode where Ji Jingyu participated. The production team quickly called Yu Minmin and thanked Lin Che. If it wasn't for her performance this time, the show wouldn't have such high viewership ratings. She went to save the situation and in the end, she did it so well. Lin Che scrolled to the part where the two fans were arguing. Lin Che's fans happily said that this time, Qin Wanwan was instantly defeated. Lin Che was a few minutes longer than Qin Wanwan in the preview. During the show, Lin Che also had more screen time. When it came to topics, Lin Che was also more eye-catching than Qin Wanwan. Look at how natural Lin Che was. Chapter 236. Lin Che looked at the comments speechlessly and said, "Why are they scolding me again?" Yu Minmin said, "You did a good job this time. The comments online are very good and it's good for your image." If Qin Wanwan really said those things on purpose, she would be furious. Yu Minmin didn't say that, but in her heart, she was thinking that this Lin Che would improvise whenever he had nothing better to do. Every time, he was lucky enough to play right into the audience's hands. It could be seen that Lin Che's personality was likable and easy to promote. Speaking of which, this girl had a kind of magical power. She could always make the people around her like her. Sometimes, she didn't even know why. While she was still in the nanny van, Jiyu Jingze called and said that he was waiting for her outside the company. Lin Che got out of the car and saw Jiyu Jingze in a black suit from afar. Under the deep night sky, it was as if he had blended into the night, making people feel a sense of coldness. His formal attire had golden edges and was perfectly inlaid. It gave off the feeling of a European aristocrat, and it set off the heroic spirit on his face, making people feel that he was full of nobility. It was so beautiful, like a handsome knight standing there. Lin Che got out of the car and was stunned for a moment before he walked forward. "What?" Her eyes flashed as she looked at him and said, "What are you doing?" Jiyu Jingze looked at Yu Minmin, who was following behind, and smiled as a sign. Yu Minmin shrugged and told Lin Che that she would be leaving first. Jiyu Jingze then said to Lin Che, "There's a banquet that I need to attend with you." "Ah, now? So sudden. Let's go. I'll take you to change first." Lin Che could only nod and follow him into the car. Looking at him from the side, he had a stiff side profile. His eyes were as deep as the abyss, but they shone brightly. His handsome face showed a bit of his usual indifference, and his thin lips were pursed, which made people have the urge to kiss him. What a good-looking man. No matter what clothes he wore, he would look handsome in different ways. What didn't change was his mysterious aura and gloomy aura, which made him extremely sexy. After changing their clothes, the two of them rushed to a hotel that they had been to before. "It's a friend of my mother's. I had to come. Let's go in and take a look. If you're too tired, we'll leave," Jiyu Jingze said as he looked at Lin Che. Lin Che nodded. He had helped her so much in the past, there was nothing wrong with accompanying him to a banquet. If he was too polite, she would feel apologetic. "It's okay. I don't have any activities today. I'm not tired at all." The two of them entered very quickly. The waiter helped Lin Che take off her fur coat and put it away. Inside, she was wearing a glowing spaghetti strap dress. It neatly hung on her shoulders, propping up her slightly protruding breasts. Jiyu Jingze's eyes lit up. His gaze followed the mermaid-like Lin Che. He only raised his head when he heard the waiter say, "We've arrived." Seeing the door open, he held her hand and walked inside with her. "So many people," Lin Che exclaimed. Some people looked at Jiyu Jingze and then at the beauty beside him. Jiyu Jingze could feel that when those gazes fell on Lin Che, they were filled with a burning desire to possess her. Jiyu Jingze realized that Lin Che was indeed very beautiful. This kind of beauty, the more he looked at it, the more different it was from other women. Looking at Lin Che, then at the surrounding socialites who claimed to be outstanding beauties, he only felt that they were dull. When Lin Che wasn't dressed up, she looked incomparably clear. Once she wore a top, she exuded a hint of seductiveness. Different Lin Che had different attractiveness. For a moment, people felt that she was like an unearthed treasure. They didn't want to let go and wanted to continue exploring. Jiyu Jingze said, "Let's go. We'll go inside first." Lin Che nodded and said, "Hey, there are so many handsome men and beautiful women here. Do you think I should find a chance to find a good man for myself?" Jiyu Jingze's face darkened. He looked at Lin Che and said, "Lin Che." Lin Che turned around and said, What's wrong? Don't you think I won't have a chance to meet such high-end people after we break up? Jiyu Jingze was sullen. His tightly pursed lips showed his anger. Isn't it too early to talk about breaking up? It might take a few more years before you find a chance to break up with me. But I'm not planning for a rainy day. Besides, a few years will pass in a flash. A day will pass in the blink of an eye, right? Oh right, what do you think of the man in the yellow suit over there? Jiyu Jingze looked into the distance and said, that one has a wife. With your taste, you should forget about it. Has a wife? Forget it then. I don't actually have any other requirements. The most important thing is that he's rich and powerful. As Lin Che said that, she scratched those words on his palm. Then, she looked at him ambiguously and winked. Jiyu Jingze was stunned. He looked at Lin Che and said, you're really. Seeing Jiyu Jingze's impatient look when he heard those words, Lin Che thought it was funny. This man was too easy to tease. However, the next moment, he put his mouth close to Lin Che's ear and said, why? When did I not satisfy you? You still want a powerful one. Lin Che blushed. Get lost. What has it got to do with you? I'm not talking about you. If you still have the energy to fantasize about whether someone else is powerful or not, then it has something to do with me. As he said that, he pulled Lin Che and leaned against her back and said, which one do you think is better? I think either one is fine. Lin Che said, but she felt Jiyu Jingze's hand caressing her exposed skin from behind. Her clothes were revealing a little. The rough touch made her feel as if an electric current had been ignited in her body. What are you doing? There are people here. Lin Che blushed and moved her body away. Jiyu Jingze looked at her shy face and smiled devilishly. You're lucky to have met me at the beginning. I made you think that all the men in the world are powerful. His hand continued to wander around her back. Lin Che wanted to escape, but he wrapped his arms around her back and did not let her move. Although the two of them were upstairs in a more secluded place, there were people downstairs. It was really not good for her to move around. I don't believe that a woman who has been developed by me can still adapt to someone else's size. As he said that, he blew into her ear. Lin Che's body trembled. She felt that she had already gone limp. Jiyu Jingze felt that her body seemed to have some kind of magic. After so many years of being pure and having few desires, after eating her once, he felt that he could no longer control himself when he touched her body again. Chapter 237. I can't. Lin Che cried. Do you want to do it here? Why do you always think about this? Who was the one who mentioned being rich first? Lin Che didn't expect his body to be so sensitive. She pushed Lin Che to find a room nearby. Lin Che felt that she shouldn't be like this. Her rationality told her that she should stay away from this man. He was right. If she left him, she wouldn't be able to find someone better than him. It must be hard. But he didn't belong to her after all. She was greedy for a moment of warmth. It was a little. She felt that she shouldn't continue with him. However, his hand climbed onto her body after entering the room. Don't, Jiyu Jingze, we shouldn't do this, don't move. You can still end it quickly. Otherwise, you know how fast I am. Do you want to end the banquet without showing yourself? As Lin Che listened to his words, he felt his earlobe being sucked into his mouth, and his body went limp. This man, what a demon. His gentle hands ignited her fire everywhere, making it difficult for her to resist in just a short while. Call my name, he said. Jiyu Jingze. Call me husband, he said. Hubby, good, this is a good girl. He swallowed the words. He felt that he couldn't control his body anymore when he heard her call him like this. He just wanted to eat her up. Say, you miss me. I don't want to. Say it quickly. Lin Che seemed to be unable to control his body as he tried his best to sketch. He cried out, I miss you. I miss you. Hearing her magic call, he couldn't control himself anymore. After the baptism of the torrential storm, Lin Che was speechless as he thought that she had really lost. She shouldn't be like this, but she was brought into this abyss involuntarily. Thinking of how obediently she said hubby, I miss you just now, she felt that she might as well sleep until she died here. On the other side, Jiyu Jingza had already asked someone to bring clean clothes. Seeing that Lin Che was still sitting there, Jiyu Jingza changed his clothes and entered the room. Why are you still here? I'm not going, HMPH. She came to accompany him to the banquet out of goodwill, but she was eaten instead. I'm not going. All right, since you like this bed so much, then I'll continue to stay here, he said as he turned over and got off the bed. Startled, Lin Che hurriedly jumped off the bed, wrapped himself in the blanket, and fled. Seeing her like this, Jiyu Jingza couldn't help but smile, but he said to her with a straight face, since you're here, hurry up and wash up. Forget it. Lin Che accepted his fate and went over to put on his clothes. He looked at Jiyu Jingza, snorted, and hurried out. Jiyu Jingza followed her from behind, thinking that she probably didn't have the energy to think about how rich she was. She was indeed too energetic. It seemed that he still had to torture her a few more times in the future so that she wouldn't spout nonsense anymore. Lin Che changed her clothes, put on her makeup, and followed Jiyu Jingza out. She bit her lip and didn't want to talk to him. I won't come to any parties with you next time. Jiyu Jingza felt refreshed and said, really? I kind of like going to parties now. Get lost. Lin Che felt that she couldn't act like a hooligan in front of him next time. Jiyu Jingza smiled at her and said, if you want to blame someone, blame yourself. It's my fault that I don't listen to you every time I see you. Lin Che blushed, but her heart warmed involuntarily. On one hand, she felt that he was really very bad, but on the other hand, she was fascinated by him because of how bad he was. When he was bad, there was a hint of wickedness in his handsomeness. It was hard not to fall for him. Jiyu Jingza saw that Lin Che's clothes were still a little messy, so he reached out to undo her clothes. When he saw that there were still some marks on them, his heart skipped a beat, and he blamed himself for being rough. However, every time he was in love, he couldn't control himself. Jiyu Jingza's eyes darkened as he looked at Lin Che and said, sometimes I can't control myself. I'm sorry, but you can stop me next time. When Lin Che heard this, she looked down at herself and blushed slightly. How could I stop you? When the lower half of your body starts to think, you're like a wild beast, okay? When Jiyu Jingza heard this, he felt even more guilty and said, alright, if you don't like this kind of place next time, I will respect your opinion. He took a deep breath and said, sometimes, I really can't control myself when I see you. Really, Lin Che, I'm also a human, and I can also lose my rationality. I hope you can understand, so if you're unhappy, you can tell me. I will be more careful next time. Lin Che looked at him and saw him blaming himself. She thought to herself, actually, it's not a big deal. She didn't control herself well either, so she said, it's okay. Sometimes, this kind of thing can't be helped. However, I hope that this will bring you joy and not embarrassment. I'm not with you because I want you to become a tool for me to vent my emotions. Lin Che, if I'm wrong, you don't have to bear the consequences. I'll improve. Lin Che looked at him, touched. Fool. You're the fool. What? If he wanted to improve on this kind of thing, how could he not be a fool? Seeing his dazed look, Lin Che rolled his eyes at him. But then, a person's silhouette emerged from inside, spoiling the atmosphere at the right time. It also clearly told her that Jiyu Jingza didn't belong to her alone, and that they were only contracted. Even if Jiyu Jingza was willing to give up the woman he loved for her, they were still a contract. Mo Hualing walked out from inside, dressed in red. What was shocking was that there was actually a man beside her. The man was delicate and handsome, tall and thin. He looked refined, and was also the kind of man that people would notice at a glance. He leaned against Mo Hualing intimately and said these words. That scene now looked a little strange. Perhaps, she was a little unused to the fact that Mo Hualing actually had another man by her side, and this man wasn't even Jiyu Jingza. Thinking of Jiyu Jingza, she raised her head and looked at him. She was very shocked when she saw him, let alone him. However, when she raised her head, she saw that he was still narrowing his eyes, his jaw was tightly clenched, and his gaze was fixed on the couple, Jiyu Jingza. Lin Che raised his head and called his name. However, on the other side, Mo Hualing had already glanced over. Looking at the two of them, a hint of satisfaction from revenge flashed across Mo Hualing's face. She held the man beside her with one hand and looked in Jiyu Jingza's direction. She couldn't help but curl one side of her lips. You can't abandon me and stop me from finding someone more outstanding. I think he's handsome, rich, and capable. He's a rare good man. Mo Hualing left immediately after she finished speaking. Jiyu Jingza just looked at her and shook his head silently. He was indeed angry. He reached out for the glass and took a sip of water. Then he turned around to look for Lin Che. Although he wanted Mo Hualing to find another man and give her a new life, it was a different thing to think about it and see it for real. Moreover, he felt that Hualing was giving up on her future just to find another man to anger him. How could Hualing be so irrational and willful? He felt a little sad and disappointed for Mo Hualing. He felt very complicated at the moment. After taking revenge on Jiyu Jingza, Mo Hualing quickly returned to Li Mingyu's place. Li Mingyu said, "Did you really break up with Jiyu Jingza?" "Ha, how could you? You used to tell me that Jiyu Jingza is rich, powerful, handsome, and the strongest man in the world, so you'd definitely marry him. Are you going to give up just like that? It's none of your business." Mo Hualing said angrily, "He's just temporarily fooled. Look at the woman he found. She's ugly, disgusting, and has no elegance. She's a disgrace to Jingza. He'll regret it one day." From which Li Mingyu looked at Lin Che, who was laughing with someone. "How could that be? I think she's really good looking. She has a beautiful face and is very special." "You." Mo Hualing was even more furious when she heard this man praising Lin Che. "But she's just a commoner. Do you know what a commoner is? She's a vixen. I don't know where she came from." Mo Hualing snorted. Okay. She's a commoner. I understand." Mo Hualing looked at this man. In the beginning, she found him because he had a grudge with Jiyu Jingza. She thought that a man who could go against Jiyu Jingza must be very capable. However, looking at him now, he was actually not as charming as Jiyu Jingza. His influence in Country H was not bad, but how could Country H compare to Country C, let alone in terms of money? When she wasn't standing with Jiyu Jingza, the contrast was not so obvious. Now that she looked at him together, she really felt that there was no one in this world who was as strong and perfect as Jiyu Jingza. However, Jiyu Jingza was standing beside Lin Che now. Chapter 239. Mo Hualing glared at the man in front of her and turned to walk out. "Hey, Hualing, where are you going? The banquet is not over yet." "All right, don't follow me. I'm annoyed when I see you." Li Mingyu's eyes twinkled as he looked at Mo Hualing. Mo Hualing was not bad looking, but there were many women who were prettier than her. Li Mingyu felt that she was not the most attractive one. However, everyone knew about Mo Hualing and Jiyu Jingza. Li Mingyu liked her so much because he knew that she was Jiyu Jingza's woman. A woman who could fool around with Jiyu Jingza must be very attractive. Li Mingyu looked at Mo Hualing meaningfully. No matter how bad her temper was, he could only tolerate it. After all, she was Jiyu Jingza's woman. "All right, Hualing, are you still jealous because of Jiyu Jingza? Are you jealous because he has another woman by his side?" "Ha, I was the one who suggested the breakup. I'm not jealous. Although he has another woman by his side, his heart is still with me. Didn't you see how angry he was just now?" Mo Hualing thought of how angry he was just now, and she felt even happier. It seemed that her move was right. Which man did not have the desire to fight for her? On the other side, Jiyu Jingza watched Li Mingyu and Mo Hualing disappear from the hall. He did not chase after them. He just stood there, wondering why he was so angry. Maybe he was angry because he cared about her. Lin Che held the champagne glass in his hand and looked around. Mo Hualing was nowhere to be seen. Jiyu Jingza, dressed in black, stood there with a gloomy expression on his face. He didn't seem to fit in with the warm atmosphere at all. Lin Che said, Jiyu Jingza, you. Jiyu Jingza turned his head and said, I'm angry. Yes, I know that we have broken up and I have nothing to be angry about. But I still feel angry, especially when I see that Li Mingyu. That trash, how could Mo Hualing like to be with that trash? This kind of feeling made him very depressed. In the past, Mo Hualing liked him, but now she was with trash. He always felt as if his quality had been dragged down and mixed with that kind of trash. Lin Che said, it's natural to be angry. It's very normal. You're not a saint, nor are you made of steel. You're also a human. Of course you'll be angry. She thought that he and Mo Hualing didn't separate because they had a falling out, but because they had no other choice. It was normal for him to be angry and sad. Jiyu Jingza looked at the time. He didn't want to continue watching Mo Hualing give up on herself, so he said to Lin Che, let's go. Since you've already been here, consider it giving my mother face. Since you've already been here, let's go. Oh, okay. Lin Che and Jiyu Jingza wanted to leave early, so the host of the banquet did not dare to object. He sent Lin Che and Jiyu Jingza out and watched them leave respectfully before returning. The Jiyu family. At night, Jiyu Jingza sent Lin Che back and left. Lin Che returned to her room alone. She didn't know what Jiyu Jingza was doing. He only said that he was going to meet someone. Lin Che thought, who is it? Mo Hualing? It must be her. Is he regretting and wants to restore their relationship? Lin Che knew that she really didn't have the right to care about this, but she was still angry. There was a sour feeling in her heart. She couldn't help but wonder if she was jealous. Could it be that she had really fallen for him? However, she knew that he was only with her out of responsibility and obligation. The guilt he felt towards her made him give up the woman he loved. His own sense of responsibility made him treat her very well. How could she be so stupid to fall for him? Maybe she was just used to it. Chen Yuqing was still in the laboratory when Jiyu Jingza strode in. Hey, President Jiyu, what are you doing here in my cold and lonely laboratory instead of cuddling with your wife? Jiyu Jingza leaned against a lab table. Hualing's new boyfriend is Li Mingyu. Ah. That man you mentioned before, the one who played dirty with you, the one who tried to drug you and give you your woman? That's right. So she likes this kind of divination? Dr. Chen. Jiyu Jingza reminded Chen Yuqing of his identity as a doctor. Oh, okay. So, you are very sad now? Yes, I am very angry, Jiyu Jingza said. I also feel that I have wronged Lin Che. I promised Lin Che that I wouldn't have anything to do with her anymore, but I still can't control myself. President Jiyu, now you have to understand why you are angry with her. Do you simply feel that you are not satisfied with the person she has found, or do you feel that you will not be satisfied with anyone she has found? I feel that I am not satisfied with the person she has found. Then what are you going to do? I hope that they can break up. Then do it. There is no point in asking me to come. Does this mean that I still have feelings for her? Jiyu Jingza looked at Chen Yuqing. Chen Yuqing said, President Jiyu, it is not wrong to have feelings for her. After all, you have been with her for a long time. It is normal to have feelings for her. Habits are not formed in a day, and it is not easy to forget someone. Although you do not feel the urgency for her anymore, it is normal for you to still have feelings for her. Jiyu Jingza said, forget it. Let me think it through. Jiyu Jingza thought, the most important thing right now, he just hoped that Mo Hualing wouldn't waste time with that trash anymore. That trash, he had to let her leave that man, otherwise, he would only feel that she had insulted not only herself, but also their past feelings. Mo Hualing suddenly received a call from Jiyu Jingza and was very happy. She put down Li Mingyu and ran to meet Jiyu Jingza. Mo Hualing specially dressed up and invited him to a 24-hour night snack shop that they used to eat together. After entering the door, she saw that Jiyu Jingza was indeed there. She smiled and pounced on Jiyu Jingza's back, hugging him. Jiyu Jingza felt a wave of disgust wash over him. He quickly pushed Mo Hualing away. He endured the feeling and said to Mo Hualing, Hualing, what are you doing? Mo Hualing looked up at Jiyu Jingza. Why are you looking for me in the middle of the night? Wasn't it because he was unhappy that she had a boyfriend? He must be here to ask her to break up with him, she thought. Jiyu Jingze looked at Mo Hualing. Are you really going to date Li Mingyu? Mo Hualing snorted and turned her head away arrogantly. Although she was overjoyed, she still looked gloomy. What's wrong? Why do you care who I am looking for? I can't force you to look for anyone. However, I still feel that I should come and advise you. Otherwise, it will be too late for me to advise you after you destroy yourself. If that happens, I will blame myself for the rest of my life. Hui Ling, it is not too late for you to rein in your horse before the precipice. Chapter 240. No, I don't want to, Mo Hualing said. You've already broken up with me. What gives you the right to meddle in my business? Mo Hualing turned around and pouted. I've already broken up with you. I don't have the right to say anything about you. If you want to find a boyfriend, you can find one. I know many good men here and I can introduce them to you slowly. What? Before Jiyu Jingze could finish his words, Mo Hualing interrupted him. Forget it. I don't need you to introduce anyone. What if you don't like anyone I'm with? Mo Hualing thought that he was really good at finding excuses. If he didn't want her to find him, then he wouldn't have said that he would introduce her to someone. He still cared about her, otherwise he wouldn't have come to see her in the middle of the night. Hualing, I'm doing this for your own good. If it weren't for the sake of our friendship. I watched you grow up, so I can't bear to see you go astray. But if you insist on not listening to me, then I can't do anything about it. Jiyu Jingze said. Mo Hualing snorted. If he liked her, then so be it. If he still had feelings for her, he could have just said it out of consideration of their friendship. Mo Hualing knew that Jiyu Jingze still cared about her. She looked at Jiyu Jingze. If you really don't want me to go astray, don't give up on me. Let me continue to be your girlfriend. Jiyu Jingze frowned. Haven't we already made it clear? I know you don't want to leave Lin Che. It's okay. You have your own needs. I can't touch you. You can continue to be with Lin Che. I just want to be by your side. Are you crazy? Jiyu Jingze looked at Mo Hualing in disbelief. He didn't expect her to say that. So what? Don't you know that there are many people like this out there? A man can have a few women outside. It's not a big deal. I don't care, so why should you? Jiyu Jingze stared at her fiercely. He couldn't believe that Mo Hualing would say something like that. Since when did she have such a perverted idea? All right, stop it, Jiyu Jingze said and walked out. He couldn't accept Mo Hualing like that. Mo Hualing held Jiyu Jingze's hand tightly and said, Jiyu Jingze, do you dare to say that you have no feelings for me at all? You love me, but because you can't touch me, you can't be with me. Enough. How many times do I have to say it before you understand? Lin Che and I are not in that kind of relationship. He did have feelings for Lin Che, but it was not purely sexual. He could tell. Mo Hualing made up her mind and ran towards the driveway. She shouted at Jiyu Jingze, if you really don't feel anything, just leave me alone. Jiyu Jingze saw a car speeding down the road. As soon as the light came on, he ran towards the road. Mo Hualing didn't expect that the car wouldn't stop. She was pushed aside by Jiyu Jingze, and Jiyu Jingze fell down with her. Mo Hualing was overjoyed. She thought to herself, you still love me after all. Then, she kissed him hard on the lips. Jiyu Jingze didn't expect this to happen. Mo Hualing had only touched it once, but it hadn't even gone deep yet, and he was already disgusted. He only felt that it was unbelievably dirty. Then, he vomited at the side. Mo Hualing was shocked again. She was completely stunned. Why was it getting worse every time? What was wrong with his illness? At home. Not long after Lin Che lay down, he heard Chen Yucheng call him. Speaking of Jiyu Jingze's illness, Chen Yucheng hoped that Lin Che would go to his studio immediately. Lin Che was speechless. He didn't have time to think about anything else and quickly changed his clothes. In Chen Yucheng's studio, Jiyu Jingze vomited a few mouthfuls of water. When he thought of the feeling of Mo Hualing on his mouth, he couldn't help but vomit again. Mo Hualing was a little disgusted. She wanted to go over and help him, but when she saw him standing in the sink and vomiting so dirty, she didn't want to go near him. Jiyu Jingzi knew that it was dirty. Although there was nothing substantial because he didn't eat anything that night, and what he vomited was all water, he was still dirty. Behind him, Mo Hualing didn't know that her expression had completely appeared in the mirror above the sink. Jiyu Jingzi turned around and said, "You can go out first. Don't worry about me." However, when he turned around, he saw her lips again. Suddenly, he felt disgusted again. Mo Hualing stood there and didn't do anything. She looked at Jiyu Jingzi and said, "You can't do this. I'll ask the servants to help you clean up." Jiyu Jingzi said, "Forget it. There are no servants here. They are all staff." Mo Hualing looked at Jiyu Jingzi and didn't dare to go forward. She thought to herself, "This is Jiyu Jingzi. He's so rich, so handsome, so powerful, and he's always so sexy. Have you forgotten? He's just a little embarrassed now." However, Mo Hualing couldn't do it. Just then, she heard someone say that Mrs. Jiyu was here. Lin Che was here. Mo Hualing's eyes lit up and she hurried out. Lin Che rushed over in a hurry, but he saw Mo Hualing coming out at a glance. Lin Che was stunned. He felt as if he had been poured with cold water. So this was the cause of the illness? She laughed coldly. She must have been an idiot to have come all the way here from home. Mo Hualing said, "You came at the right time. Jingzi is in a serious condition. Go and have a look." As she spoke, she squinted her eyes and raised her eyebrows arrogantly. "It's time for you to go over. Otherwise, why did Jingzi marry you? Isn't it because he likes you? He won't act up even if you touch him." Lin Che snorted and looked at Mo Hualing. "I was wondering why he vomited. So it's because of Miss Mo Yu." Mo Hualing glared at him angrily. "Jingzi is having an illness. What do you know?" Lin Che glanced at Mo Hualing and brushed past her as he walked over. She saw Jiyu Jingzi in the mirror with one hand on the wall. His pale face was reflected in the mirror. Even at this moment, his eyes didn't show any signs of discomfort. However, he had vomited too much. His red lips were now pale. Although Lin Che wanted to scold him, he still walked over quickly. Forget it. He would vomit to death if he continued like this. Lin Che walked over and held Jiyu Jingzi's arm with one hand. Jiyu Jingzi lifted his hand. He still felt uncomfortable. He closed his eyes and looked at Lin Che. "Don't come near me. It's very dirty." Lin Che was stunned. He felt even more uncomfortable when he saw the embarrassment on his face. She didn't let go, but still held his hand tightly. She supported him and said, "What's so dirty about it? Didn't you just spit out some bitterness? It's still something in your body. How dirty can it be? Let's go, I'll help you over there. You're really good at complaining about being dirty at this time." Jiyu Jingzi raised his head and looked at Lin Che with a deep and serene gaze. He stared at her without blinking, which made Lin Che feel a little scorching. Chapter 241. Why are you looking at me? Lin Che said, "Let's go." Jiyu Jingzi only smiled. His hand was still in her arms as she supported him to the lounge. He raised his hand. "I can't be here. I'm still feeling a little uncomfortable." He felt even uglier as he thought about it. No one had ever seen him like this before. Jiyu Jingzi had always thought highly of himself, and he definitely had the right to do so. In front of everyone, he was always elegant and calm. But now, because of this illness, he didn't like to show weakness, but now he felt that he was being despised. He didn't want Lin Che to see this terrible side of him. Lin Che stopped his hand. "It's so uncomfortable inside. There's a basin here. If you want to vomit, you can vomit into it. I'll just pour it away. Oh yeah, there's water here. You can use it to wash your mouth." She lowered her head and said, "When I was young, my mom would do this to me when I ate random things and vomited. I'll be fine after lying down for a while. Don't eat anything for now. You can eat after you've vomited. Then you won't vomit anymore." Jiyu Jingze continued to stare at her. Lin Che raised his head, looked into his deep eyes, and said indifferently, "Why are you staring at me?" Jiyu Jingze took a deep breath and looked at her. "Silly, don't you think it's dirty? Can't you just ask the servants to take care of me? There are servants in the house anyway." Lin Che was stunned. She glared at him and said, "What's there to be disgusted about? Didn't I vomit on you before?" Lin Che looked at Jiyu Jingze. She understood. He was the pride of the heavens and had a perfect life. But because of this strange illness, he had to show such a weak side in front of others. He probably didn't feel good about it. So he probably didn't want the servants to see him in such a sorry state. Jiyu Jingze slowly held her hand. Lin Che stared blankly for a moment, then felt his hand slowly being held in his palm. He slowly rubbed her hand, feeling his heart gradually calming down. The sky had already turned completely dark, and the night was boundless. The people in the room had all left, and the two of them sat there, enjoying a moment of peace. After an unknown amount of time, Lin Che was too tired and Jiyu Jingze was fine, so she fell asleep on the side. Jiyu Jingze looked at Lin Che, lowered his head and gently brushed away the hair on her forehead. He looked at her silly face and smiled faintly. Outside, the bodyguard seemed to have something to say, so he looked inside and made a simple gesture. Jiyu Jingze's eyes deepened, and he gently pressed a kiss on Lin Che's forehead before walking out. "Sir, Miss Mo is still outside," the bodyguard said. Jiyu Jingze frowned deeply. When Jiyu Jingze walked out, he saw Mo Hualing sitting on the sofa in the studio with a cup of coffee beside her. She hurriedly stood up and said, "Jingze, are you all right? You scared me to death just now. But I know it's because of me, so I can't go in and touch you, so I asked Lin Che to. Miss Mo, I remember you said the same thing the last time. Are you afraid that something will happen to President Jiyu, or are you afraid that something will happen to you, so you pushed the blame to Lin Che?" Chen Yuqing, who was leaning against the sofa lazily, suddenly said. Jiyu Jingze turned around and looked at her deeply. "The last time?" Mo Hualing's eyes darkened. She glared at Chen Yuqing and hurriedly said, "What nonsense is he talking about? He's just a doctor. What right does he have to stand here when I'm talking to you?" Jiyu Jingze's face tensed up. He looked at Mo Hualing and suddenly felt an unprecedented disgust for her. Although he could understand that she was a rich heiress and couldn't bear a lot of things, he couldn't stop the disgust from spreading in his heart. "All right, Hualing, stop messing around. I don't care who you want to be with or marry, I won't care about you in the future. It's getting late now, you should go back." His cold voice did not have a trace of warmth. Mo Hualing panicked. She looked at Jiyu Jingze and said, "Jingze, don't listen to others provoking us. That's enough, Hualing. Do you want to go home on your own, or should I get someone to send you home?" Jiyu Jingze's expression was cold and it made her feel a chill down her spine. What he meant was, "Do you want to leave on your own, or do I force you to leave?" Mo Hualing gritted her teeth. She felt that she had already gotten what she wanted today, so she snorted in Chen Yuqing's direction. Then she stomped her feet and turned to leave the room. Chen Yuqing snorted. Although he was a doctor and shouldn't meddle in other people's business, he couldn't bear to see Lin Che bear the responsibility for her every time. Jiyu Jingze looked in the direction Mo Hualing left. He thought about the girl who had been following him around tirelessly when he was young. He closed his eyes and thought that he should stop caring about Mo Hualing. Perhaps Mo Hualing was no longer the Mo Hualing he knew in the past. He was just clinging to the past. By the time Lin Che woke up, it was already the next morning. She saw that there was no one beside her. She was still covered by his clothes and smelled his familiar fragrance. She had only slept for a few hours, so she wasn't feeling well. She rubbed her eyes and got up, thinking about everything that had happened yesterday. She quickly got up and ran out. "Madam, Sir asked me to bring you your favorite food. Please wash up and eat it." The servants had actually brought the food prepared by the chef. Lin Che looked at it and nodded blankly. "Oh, okay. Where's your husband?" "Sir has gone to deal with some matters and hasn't come back yet. However, he told us to let you eat first and then bring you home." There will be a family gathering tomorrow and the day after. It's almost the new year. Madam, you should take a break from work. Lin Che thought about it in a daze. She went out to deal with some matters so early. She wondered what he was dealing with. She nodded and said, "Yes, I don't have much work to do." By the time he got to the interview, it was already his last job. The rest had already been pushed to the end of the year. It was the new year and she didn't have to attend the Spring Festival Gala. Naturally, she was going to rest. Meanwhile, Jiyu Jingze was in his office. Listening to Mo Huiling's continuous calls, he simply picked up the phone and said, "Huiling, this is the last time I'll take a call from you. From now on, I won't care about your affairs anymore, and I won't have any contact with you. I hope you can understand and don't call me again." After saying that, he thought about it for a moment and decided to blacklist her name. Only then did he realize that his frustration and anger yesterday was only because he realized that Mo Huiling was no longer the Mo Huiling he had imagined. Although he felt that he was a little cruel, he really hated Mo Huiling. He didn't want to hear her name again. Now that he thought of her lips, he felt like vomiting. Chapter 242. After Lin Che returned home from the studio, Jiyu Jingze was still busy and hadn't returned. He heard that the closer the year was to the end of the year, the more things there were to do in the office. He didn't even have time to rest. Lin Che was watching TV at home and saw that the Spring Festival Gala was at its final rehearsal. Qin Wanwan's figure was on the TV. This made Qin Wanwan, who had been quiet for a few days, once again become the focus of attention. Among a bunch of old faces, a new face was of course very noticeable. In the news, it was probably a press release from Qin Wanwan's team, which made Qin Wanwan sound like she was about to enter the A-list. Later, it was Xin Xiaoyuan, who was also from Lin Che's company, who would also be participating in the Spring Festival Gala. When she was interviewed, she kept saying that she had participated in the gala a few times, but she still felt very honored. Knowing that she was from the same company as Lin Che, the reporters asked her how she felt about the younger generation in the company, especially Lin Che. Xin Xiaoyuan seized the opportunity and said directly, "Oh, I only know that she and Jiyu Jingyu are very close, right? With Jiyu Jingyu taking care of her, she shouldn't be too bad. The two of them are very close, but she recently took a leave and won't be participating during the Spring Festival. I don't know why she suddenly took a leave, but I don't know if there's something wrong with her body." This was supposed to be nothing, but not long after the report came out, there was a rumor on the internet that Lin Che, who hadn't been out for a few days, might be pregnant and was resting at home. Lin Che wanted to curse. He saw that it was posted by a Weibo verified account, saying that someone had revealed that Lin Che was indeed resting and had cancelled all her activities. The company's big sister had also confirmed that she had taken a leave from the company. The verified account even made a very suggestive guess. Whose child could it be? The few people who had worked with her before were listed, including Jiyu Jingyu. Among them, everyone knew that Jiyu Jingyu was the one who had the closest relationship with her. So in just half a day, everyone started guessing that Lin Che was pregnant with Jiyu Jingyu's child. "Are you kidding me? Can't you let me rest properly?" Yu Minmin quickly called Lin Che. Although she was resting, Yu Minmin didn't have a holiday, nor did she take the initiative to take a vacation. She was still working in the company. Lin Che said, "What the hell are those people doing? How did I get pregnant out of nowhere?" Yu Minmin had no choice but to say, "We've already released a statement saying that you're not pregnant. This should be Xin Xiaoyuan's doing. She wants to defame you and Jiyu Jingyu for having an illicit relationship. She wants to say that you two have an underground relationship or something like that." She had indeed seen many people saying that she had given birth to Jiyu Jingyu's illegitimate child on purpose. She had relied on Jiyu Jingyu to climb up to the top, and now that she was hugging his thigh, she even wanted to give birth to his child. "Are you saying that I sold my body to get here?" Lin Che was speechless. Yu Minmin was also speechless. "All right, you go ahead with your work. The Jiyu family will be very busy at the end of the year. Come out in the afternoon and let's pose for a photo." Tell everyone that you're fine and can't go out because you're pregnant. Remember not to wear that fat down jacket of yours. It's just that people are saying that you're covering up your belly on purpose. Can you wear something a little more revealing today? Lin Che could only twitch his lips and agree. When she went out, she purposely wore a beautiful, tight-fitting outfit. She didn't wear a jacket on such a cold day, and she still had to look good on the road. Lin Che cursed Xin Xiaoyuan in his heart. He thought that he must have said a few words to her during the annual meeting, which made her hate him. After putting on a pose with much difficulty, Jiyu Jingze called to say that he had recovered and was coming to pick her up to go to the Jiyu residence for the new year. When Jiyu Jingze came from afar, he saw Lin Che shivering in thin clothes. His heart sank. He quickly got out of the car and walked to Lin Che's side. "What are you doing?" Lin Che said, "There's a son of a bitch on the internet saying that I'm pregnant." I'm here to prove that I'm not pregnant." Achoo. As she said that, she sneezed on Jiyu Jingze's face, spraying saliva all over it. Jiyu Jingze gritted his teeth and looked at her. Lin Che. She was so stupid. How could she not sneeze when she was wearing so little? He took off his jacket with one hand and put it on her. With the other hand, he covered her body. "I'm still far from being pregnant, right?" He looked down at her flat stomach and smiled. "Some people are already looking forward to it. Does that mean we should work harder?" Lin Che's face darkened. "Who wants to have a child with you?" Jiyu Jingze smiled and wrapped his arms around Lin Che. He felt her hair rubbing against his face. He turned around and smiled. He felt that her hair was really soft. It only tickled his face, but it didn't sting at all. After entering the Jiyu residence, Lin Che saw that the atmosphere of the new year had suddenly become more intense. Because the surroundings were decorated in a festive manner, it suddenly looked like the new year. The older he got, the more he felt that the new year was boring. Looking at it now, he seemed to recall the feeling of the new year when he was young. Lin Che said, "I haven't seen such lanterns in a long time. Your house is so beautiful." Jiyu Jingze said, "Really?" He didn't think much of it in the past. It was probably because it was done every year and he was already used to it. Lin Che reached out to touch the small lantern. "When I was young, I loved the new year too. Every year when it was time, I would paste couplets and buy firecrackers with the nanny. I was very happy when my father gave me a red packet at night. I was very happy, but then," Lin Che paused. Her little face looked a little self-deprecating. Jiyu Jingze looked down at her. "What's wrong?" "My father always gave me a red packet of 10 yuan. I thought that was a huge sum of money. After I grew up, I realized that he gave Lin Li and Lin Li thousands of yuan. The 10 yuan he gave me was the same as the red packet he gave the nanny. So I didn't look forward to the new year anymore." Jiyu Jingze looked at her and his eyes slowly darkened. He seemed to be thinking about something and didn't speak for a long time. Lin Che said, "But my father might not be so cruel. It was my aunt who didn't allow him to give it to me. After all, I'm just an illegitimate child." Jiyu Jingze said, "Let's go in." "Oh yeah, why did someone say that you're pregnant today?" "I get angry when I talk about it. An idiot from the company said that I'm pregnant. I'm such a young and beautiful person, but they said that I'm pregnant. There must have been some conflict during the last meal." "Really?" Jiyu Jingze's eyes flashed and he nodded. He didn't say anything and led her into the newly decorated living room. Inside, Mu Wanqing was chatting and eating with her family. There were really a lot of people in the Jiyu family. Until now, Lin Che hadn't really recognized all of them. However, probably because of Jiyu Jingze's status and ability, everyone became polite when they saw the two of them enter. In an instant, the two of them became the focus of the family. Chapter 243. When Mu Wanqing saw that Lin Che had arrived, she ignored everyone else and pulled Lin Che over to chat with her. They were so intimate that the other women of the Jiyu family who were watching from behind were jealous. However, she was someone else's daughter-in-law. Although there were many people in the Jiyu family, there weren't many who could reach the top like the three Jiyu brothers. Everyone could only look at those who stood at the top and squeeze their heads, wanting to say a few words to Mu Wanqing, to be intimate, to join their conversation, and to flatter her. Mu Wanqing was still staring at Lin Che's stomach. She heard from the servants that the two of them had been very intimate recently. They were flirting with each other. It seemed like good things were coming. However, there was still no movement. It was impossible for her to say that she was not anxious. However, having a child was a matter between husband and wife after all, so it wasn't good for her to press him too much. She could only look at Lin Che and say, "I had someone make some nourishing soup, take it back to nourish yourself." Lin Che laughed dryly. "All right, Mom, thank you, Mom. Mom isn't rushing you. Don't worry, you can play as long as you want. Of course, if you accidentally get pregnant, hehe, don't try to hide it from me." "Of course not." Lin Che could only feel even more awkward. Jiyu Jingza's face darkened as he said, "Mom, aren't you just rushing him?" Mu Wanqing said, "Go, useless guy." Jiyu Jingza looked at Lin Che with a passionate gaze. All right. Does it mean that I'm useless if I can't have children? Then I'll give birth. From tomorrow onwards, I'll stay in bed with Lin Che and work hard every day, okay?" Lin Che's face turned red. What was Jiyu Jingza talking about? Mu Wanqing said, Do you really think I'm forcing you guys? I'm not here because you guys haven't given birth yet. I always feel that there's something I haven't done, so I keep thinking about it." Jiyu Jingza looked at Lin Che, who didn't dare to speak, and said to Mu Wanqing, "All right, Mom, I promise you that one day, I will let you have grandchildren. 3, 4 at a time. Believe in my ability. Lin Che knows that ordinary people can't compare to me." Mu Wanqing looked at Jiyu Jingza in surprise. This kid even knew how to tease people now. It seemed that the two of them were really close to a happy ending. She looked at Jiyu Jingza with a smile. She was very happy that they had a good relationship. Lin Che also raised his head in shock. Was Jiyu Jingza crazy? What nonsense was he making promises here? And you're still spouting nonsense about it. However, Lin Che thought that perhaps he wanted to deliberately create an image of him and Lin Che in love. It was the Lunar New Year, so she should let her parents feel at ease. However, what was the use of a momentary peace of mind? She couldn't help but look at Mu Wanqing. Mu Wanqing was actually very good to her. Lin Che blamed herself. She really didn't have the heart to say that she wouldn't give birth to Jiyu Jingza's child. Although they had sex, it was just a contract marriage without emotional ties. If they gave birth to a child, they would be separated sooner or later. What about the child? No matter how stupid she was, she knew that she shouldn't have done this. Moreover, Jiyu Jingza was a smart man. He had taken precautions every time. He wouldn't make a mistake. There would be no accidents, no children. However, she knew this in her heart, but she couldn't tell Mu Wanqing these words. Soon, Old Master Jiyu arrived. The Jiyu family's banquets were all family banquets, but all the branches of the Jiyu family were present. Hence, the Jiyu residence was very lively today. At night, Lin Che and Mu Wanqing sat in the middle. Seeing so many people today, she felt a little uncomfortable. It was the first time she had spent the Lunar New Year in a big family. If this goes on for too long, it'll be easy for people to forget the nature of our relationship. I think we should keep a distance. I don't want to continue with you. He was still sad for Mo Hualing, which meant that he still cared about her. He was still seeing Mo Hualing and being intimate with her, ignoring his illness. Then, how could he continue to be like this with her? This wasn't right. Jiyu Jingza's eyes darkened when he heard this. Chapter 244. Jiyu Jingza looked at Lin Che. She looked at him seriously. It was the first time she looked so serious. Jiyu Jingza said, "You mean that you don't want me to continue being like this with you?" Lin Che looked at him and said calmly, "That's right. I think this is different from what we agreed on at the beginning. We should keep our distance. It's making things difficult for me now. Jiyu Jingze looked into her eyes deeply, as if he was trying to catch a hint of emotion in her eyes. But if she wanted to keep to the agreement, what else could he do? He slowly let go of her hand and turned his head. His tense jaw looked a little grey against the backdrop of the fireworks. Following that, he became a little more silent. After a long time, he said, "If you've made up your mind, then I respect your decision." When Lin Che heard his consent, he felt a sense of relief in his heart, but it also brought with it an indescribable pain. But they had no future. If they continued to be entangled like this, it would only be a waste of time, and it made her feel disgusted. Thinking about how he was still in a relationship with Mo Hualing and being with her on the other hand, she couldn't accept it no matter what. On New Year's Eve, the sky in the distance was a little enchanting red. The two of them sat on the porch with their legs dangling. They were silent as they listened to the countdown of New Year's Eve. When they returned to the room, Jiyu Jingze took the initiative to walk out with the quilt. Lin Che didn't care about him and leaned on the bed. She heard that he seemed to be sleeping on the floor outside, but she didn't pay attention. They lay down. The sound of firecrackers still lingered outside, but it was much quieter. Lin Che hugged the quilt. She heard that Jiyu Jingze fell asleep after a while and didn't move. Actually, he didn't move when he slept, but he seemed to be even quieter today. Maybe she was just too sensitive. Anyway, she hugged the quilt and smiled sadly. She didn't expect him to agree so easily. It seemed that he was still sure that they would divorce sooner or later, so he rationally agreed to her idea. But why did she feel uncomfortable in her heart when he agreed? It was as if something was tugging at her little heart, and it hurt as if it was being tugged at. Lin Che smiled bitterly. Did she still have a glimmer of hope that he wanted to spend the rest of his life with her? Actually, she was already lucky to meet such an outstanding man and be with him for a few years. How could she have such extravagant hopes? She had been with him for a long time, so she had unrealistic fantasies. This man. It was better to stay away from him. As Lin Che thought about this, he fell asleep in a daze. The next day, Jiyu Jingze left early in the morning, ignoring Lin Che. Lin Che went out. Mu Wanqing was still puzzled. It's the first day of the new year. Why didn't Jingze accompany you? Oh, I thought he was very busy with work. Wasn't he like this before? That's not it. In the past, he didn't care about these days. But this year, he's with you. I thought he wouldn't leave. Lin Che replied, "Is it right to work hard? I should understand him and support him." Mu Wanqing looked at Lin Che with pity. "I'll talk to him next time. Why is he working so hard?" Lin Che walked out with Mu Wanqing and prepared to drink tea. Lin Che said, "Oh right, this time, Mr. President and Jiyu Jingyu didn't come back." Mu Wanqing said, "Jingming said he would come back, but I don't know why he left." Jingyu. "Sigh, it's fine if he doesn't come back. I know he doesn't want to see me." Lin Che looked at Mu Wanqing strangely. "Mom, why do you say that? I've worked with Senior Jingyu many times. It's impossible that he doesn't want to see you. Although he's very stubborn, he's actually very kind." Mu Wanqing sighed. "Back then, I was also in the wrong. I know that none of the children I gave birth to are bad children. He is a good child." However, although these three brothers have different personalities, they are all stubborn people. Lin Che said, "I know that I shouldn't be asking about this, but, because I'm very familiar with Senior Jingyu, I really don't understand what could have caused him to suddenly not return home." Mu Wanqing said, "Back then, when he was in school, he had a girlfriend, and when the two of them were in school, their relationship seemed to be pretty good. That woman took the initiative to pursue him, and I heard that the woman's family conditions were not good, but that's nothing. My family is not the kind of family that has prejudice, and the family conditions are not good. As long as the person is good, it's fine. But I found out that that woman seemed to be deliberately approaching Jingyu for money. How could I agree to that? I can't watch Jingyu be cheated, at that time, while they were still young and ignorant. I separated the two of them, took 2 million, and sent that girl away. You say, a good girl, if it's not for money, really wants to be with Jingyu. Why would she take 2 million and leave? She definitely wouldn't want it, but she took it quickly. Lin Che thought, there's such a thing, it's really. Lin Che looked at Mu Wanqing, then wouldn't Senior Jingyu be very sad? Even though I'm sad, at least I didn't get cheated any further. If I found out that she only wanted money after a few years, wouldn't that be even worse? But he never returned home. In fact, he even went on to study acting and became a star. Otherwise, the family would still want him to stay at home and help Jingza. Jingza wouldn't be so busy today. He's so busy that he doesn't even have time to spend with you. I feel sorry for him. Lin Che smiled awkwardly. Mu Wanqing held Lin Che's hand and felt her palm turn cold. She quickly asked her to enter the house. Lin Che looked at Mu Wanqing and said gratefully, "Thank you, Mom, for telling me all this. I know that Mom won't tell ordinary people." "Yes, but you're not an outsider. You're my daughter-in-law, my daughter. I can only tell you and pour out my grievances to you." Lin Che's throat choked. He felt that he really couldn't bear to tell her that he and Jiyu Jingza were only in a contract marriage. He could only hold Mu Wanqing's hand tightly with a heart full of guilt. Mu Wanqing still thought that one day she would give birth to a child, but she didn't know that she and Jiyu Jingza would never be able to be together. Because Jiyu Jingza rationally knew what he wanted, he had already rationally agreed not to touch her again. In the future, the two of them would treat each other with respect. How could they have another child? Meanwhile, in the office, the atmosphere was so depressing that all the higher-ups felt cold sweat dripping down their backs. Chapter 245. Early in the morning on the first day of the Lunar New Year, Jiyu Jingza suddenly asked them to come back to work. He even asked them to come to his office and scolded them one by one for the whole morning. The atmosphere was extremely heavy. Everyone was dejected and looked like they had nothing to live for. "We've been working on this bridge case for 5 months, and we've only made this much progress. Team leader Chen, I think you've wasted your 3rd degree at the University of California. Your school is probably feeling ashamed of you right now." With that, the folder was thrown on the table. "Manager Liu, the world's economic system is changing so fast, but your old brain is still so slow. Should I consider getting some new blood to move your department? Otherwise, I really can't believe that you made this thing." Another file was thrown on the table. "Director Zhong, I want to ask you, did I give you an annual salary of 30 million just to invite you to come back and do this kind of project for me? If that's the case, I might as well spend a few $100,000 to hire a labor contractor. I don't think he'll be so slow." Another file was smashed onto the table. They all lowered their heads to look at their folders. They didn't dare to look up at Jiyu Jingza, who was sitting in the big office chair with a gloomy face. "Why are you still sitting here? Since you know the progress is slow, why don't you hurry up and do it?" Jiyu Jingza scolded them one last time. They quickly got up, picked up their things, and rushed out. Qin Hao stood there, not daring to say a word. He stole a glance at Jiyu Jingza. Seeing that Jiyu Jingza was engrossed in reading the company's documents, Qin Hao complained in his heart. It seemed that Jiyu Jingza would have to be scolded later. Jiyu Jingza had read a lot of documents and dealt with a lot of work early in the morning. Why did he suddenly come to the company? The president of the company, who had just taken a day off, hurried back to deal with the work urgently. Jiyu Jingza read the documents for the whole day. In the end, he asked someone to bring more black coffee. The black coffee was brought over. It was moderately hot and cold, and it was placed on the table with a bitter aroma. He walked over, picked it up, held it in his hand, and looked under the French window. For a moment, he didn't know why, but he suddenly tightened his grip on the thick walls of the coffee cup. Then, the warm coffee finally soaked the coffee cup. The coffee spilled all over the floor. Jiyu Jingza frowned and flung his hand away. Looking at the employees outside, they looked at him innocently. Their gazes were filled with fear, but there was only a cold glint in his eyes. "Get out of my office. I don't want to see you here anymore. President Jiyu. President Jiyu, I was wrong. Please give me a chance." She was so scared that she screamed, which made Jiyu Jingze even more displeased. Seeing this, Qin Hao immediately pulled him up and dragged him out. Jiyu Jingze just stood there, looking down at the desolate winter sky. The people here need ability, and luck is also a kind of ability. Why did she have to deliver the coffee at this time after the people outside had been pushing it around for so long? This meant that her ability to avoid dangerous situations was not as good as others, and her ability to shirk responsibility was not as good as others. Therefore, she was fired today because of her lack of ability. He was taken out, and the office returned to silence. His hand was in pain, which made him sober up a little. He took a deep breath and thought to himself. Since she wanted to draw a clear line between them, then he would just let her be. She was right. Recently, he had not been able to distinguish between public and private affairs. At night, Lin Che saw that Jiyu Jingze had not returned to the Jiyu family. He was still there, and she did not know whether she should continue to stay here or go back to the Jiyu family. Jiyu Jingze did not tell her when he left. While Lin Che was still hesitating, she heard her phone ring again. She picked it up and saw that it was an unfamiliar number. "Hello, who is this?" Lin Che asked. "Xiao Che. It's me." An unfamiliar voice made Lin Che feel a little strange, especially when the person on the other side called her Xiao Che. "Xiao Che, I'm your grandmother. You don't remember me, do you? You were the one who wrote me this number." "What? Grandmother?" Lin Che was shocked and quickly jumped off the bed. Lin Che's mother had been admitted to a university from a small place and came to B City. If she had not met her father, she would have had a good life. However, she had met Lin Youzai. Lin Youzai lied to her mother to give birth to her and cut off all ties with her family. They never contacted each other again. It was not until he passed away that he told her that his parents were still in the small mountain village. Lin Che was still young at that time. She could only send a letter to her grandmother every year. She did not know if her grandmother would see it or if she was still alive. However, she had never had the chance to go to such a distant place to look for her grandmother, so this matter had been delayed. Last year, she had just sent a letter to her grandmother, saying that she was living well. She did not know if her grandmother could see the letter and know of her existence. However, she would still send her a letter every year, just as her mother had said before she passed away. On the letter, she had even attached her address to her grandmother. She did not expect that today, her grandmother would not only suddenly appear, but also call her. This really surprised Lin Che. "Grandmother, you finally called me. I thought you did not receive my letter." "I received it, but you are living so well. As an old lady from the countryside, I will only be a burden to you. So, it is better not to let you know." Lin Che paused bitterly in her heart. She did not tell her that she had been lying to her all those years. She only said that the Lin family was very good and that she was living a good life in the Lin family. In her letter, she described the Lin family as so beautiful. However, in fact, her life had always been so bad that she was too embarrassed to tell anyone. "Grandmother, how can that be? You will not be a burden to me. Mother also hopes that you can live well. Your letter said that the Lin family is in B City. So, Xiao Che, are you also in B City?" "Of course," Lin Che said hurriedly. "Why, are you coming?" I am now in B City, but I am unfamiliar with the people and the place. I was cheated of all my money. Now, I do not know what to do, so I can only call you." "What?" Lin Che quickly told Mu Wanqing that he had something to do. He did not wait for Jiyu Jingze and simply left the Jiyu residence. After thinking for a while, she did not know where Jiyu Jingze was. Chapter 246. Yang Lingxin said obediently, "Yeah, sister, you call someone and ask who can come. I don't have much to do at home, so I'll earn as much as I can." As for Yu Minmin, she only stayed at home for a day during the holidays. She couldn't stay at home anymore. Ever since she couldn't gamble, her father drank heavily at home every day. Whenever he saw Yu Minmin, He would scold her for being an ingrate, a traitor, and an unfilial son. Yu Minmin didn't want to argue with him for her mother's sake, so she simply left home. She drove Lin Che's van all the way to Times Square. Before he arrived, Lin Che could already see a white-haired old lady sitting in a corner. Beside her feet was a shabby cloth bag. It seemed that the people around her were looking down on her. A person who looked like a security guard walked over and chased her away. Lin Che quickly got out of the car and ran over to her. She could tell at a glance that it was her grandmother because she looked so much like her mother. Although her mother had passed away many years ago, she was the only person in the world who had treated her well in the past. She remembered her mother's voice and smile vividly. "Grandma." Lin Che ran over and the old lady quickly stood up. The security guard was a little surprised. He looked up and saw Lin Che and a few others getting out of the car and walking over. He was very surprised. "You guys," Lin Che said, "why are you chasing them away? Can't an old lady sit here for a while if she's lost?" When the security guard saw Lin Che, he could tell that he was either rich or respectable, and knew that he couldn't afford to offend him. He hurriedly said, "I was just afraid that she was a beggar. I'm sorry, okay?" Lin Che ignored the security guard's flattering smile and held his grandmother's hand. "Grandma, it's me, Xiao Che." The old lady looked at Lin Che and looked at him carefully. Her eyes were wet and she held Lin Che's hand with trembling hands. Xiao Che, it's really you." Lin Che hugged his grandmother for a while and then pulled her into the car. Looking at the brand new car, which was very clean inside, she was too embarrassed to get in. In the end, Lin Che pulled her in. On the way, Lin Che asked about her situation. She only said, "I'm really old and useless. I saw an advertisement saying that the hospital here can cure my cough, so I took a long train to get here. Who knew that my cough wouldn't be cured, and I've spent all my money. They told me that the hospital is a scammer, and when I went to ask for money, they even beat me up. I'm just an old woman, and I can't fight with them, so I could only come back. But now, I don't even have the money to go back home, and I really want to go begging. I still want to try making a phone call to see if I can find you. I really don't want to call you, Sai. Grandma, just call me. What's wrong? Do you have a cough problem?" "Yeah." Hearing this, Yu Minmin said, "I know of a hospital that can treat it." "Lin Che, where do you want to send Grandma?" "To the Jiyu family," or, Lin Che knew that the Jiyu family was a big place with many beds. But she was still a fake Mrs. Jiyu. Although she was willing to resume her relationship with him, she still felt a little sour in her heart. She didn't want to mention Jiyu Jingza, so she said to Yu Minmin, "Let's go to the hospital directly." Yu Minmin asked someone to contact the hospital first. Grandma looked at Lin Che and smiled at his little face. "You look a little like your mother, but not at all. You're prettier than your mother." Lin Che smiled. "Mom looks like Grandma too, so I look like Grandma too." "Oh my, I'm so ugly, how can that be?" Grandma must have been a beauty when she was young. Grandma's name was Cho Shuyun. She was 78 years old. It was really hard for her to travel thousands of miles from a small town in Y City. The hospital was already prepared. Young Lingshin went back and forth to take care of it. She was very efficient. Yu Minmin had also helped to contact a doctor for Grandma. The doctor said that it didn't look too good. Lin Che was shocked. He asked Grandma to rest in the hospital bed while he went to the office to find out more. The doctor said, "She's coughing because there's a polyp in her throat. It's too big. Is it serious?" Lin Che asked. The doctor said, "It's not very serious. It's just that the patient is too old, so it took a lot of time. It's a little too big." Then, "Doctor, can you tell me if there's a possibility of it causing cancer?" This was what Lin Che was most worried about. The doctor said, "Fortunately, it depends on the test results. But this kind of polyp is more likely to be benign. But I can't guarantee it." Lin Che was very worried, especially when he heard that Grandma had to undergo surgery at such an old age. After chatting with the doctor for a long time and asking about all the bad possibilities, she left the office. Just as she left, she saw her phone vibrating. She hurried over. but the vibration stopped. She opened it and saw that it was Ji Jingza calling. Why was he still in the mood to call her? He hadn't talked to her for a day. She thought it was strange. She picked up the phone and called Ji Jingza, but the line was busy. The next moment, someone walked over from afar. She took a closer look and saw that it was Qin Hao. Lin Che was shocked. "Assistant Qin, why are you?" Qin Hao looked at Lin Che and ran over hurriedly. "Madam, how are you? Are you sick? Why are you in the hospital? How did you know I was in the hospital?" Lin Che looked at Qin Hao strangely and asked. Qin Hao said, "President Ji told me to come over. He'll be here soon." Ji Jingza. This was a hospital in the city, but it wasn't the best. The best hospital in City B was a private hospital. Ji Jingza had gone there several times when he had problems. Before Lin Che could react, there was a commotion outside. Someone was shouting crazily, "He's so handsome. I think he came in a motorcade. The one in the lead is a Maybach. It's the first time I've seen a Maybach up close. He's so handsome." Although Ji Jingza's footsteps were still steady when he walked in, his pace was actually very fast. He called Lin Che many times at home, but she didn't pick up. Ji Jingza didn't want to call at first, but when he got home, he heard from his mother that she had something to attend to and left first. He called her curiously, but he couldn't get through. All of a sudden, he became anxious. He was a little angry with himself. Since Lin Che didn't want to have anything to do with him, he shouldn't care about her anymore. But he really felt that something was wrong with her, so he rushed over without stopping. He had never realized that he was such a despicable person. But he still came. He asked someone to check on Lin Che's whereabouts and found that her phone's GPS showed that she was in the hospital. He was so shocked that he didn't care about anything else and rushed over. Chapter 248. She looked at Lin Che enviously as she said, "I didn't expect Ji Jingza to be so good-looking in person. I can't believe I'll be able to see him again one day. Oh my God, I'm going crazy. I can't believe I'm standing next to the real Ji Jingza." Yu Minmin looked at the excited girl and reminded her with a smile, "But you can't tell anyone about this. You should know that." "Oh, I understand. Yang Lingxin nodded hurriedly. Lin Che smiled. He could understand her reaction when she first met Ji Jingza. Even he was shocked when he first found out that Ji Jingza was so rich. Ji Jingza walked back again. Yang Lingxin's eyes lit up as she looked at him. Ji Jingza naturally saw the girl too. He glanced at her and couldn't remember who she was. He just didn't remember that Lin Che had such a person by his side. He said to Ji Jingza, "This is Yang Lingxin, my new assistant. By the way, do you remember her? She's the girl we met when we went shopping together." She still felt sad when she thought of him wrapping the scarf around her neck. Ji Jingza remembered and nodded as he looked at the girl. Lin Che said, "What do you think? She's a pretty girl, right?" Ji Jingza looked at her again when he heard her. He didn't think she was pretty. She couldn't compare to Lin Che at all. He turned back and said to Lin Che, "Everything is ready. Let's go." They got into the car. Yu Minmin and Yang Lingxin got into the bodyguard's car and they sent them home. Grandma was lying in the ambulance in the front. Ji Jingza and Lin Che were sitting in the Maybach at the back. Ji Jingza looked at Lin Che's worried face and forgot how angry he had been. He should really say that he didn't know when he had become hopelessly cheap. However, he said to Lin Che calmly, "All right, don't worry. I promise you that your grandma will be fine." Lin Che listened to his tough and determined voice and turned around. "You don't have to promise me anything. Life and death are determined by fate. What happens to my grandmother is also God's will. All right, Ji Jingza, don't worry. I haven't broken down. I won't let you suddenly lose your wife. Ji Jingza glared at her. Seriously, Lin Che said, it's just that when my mother passed away, she told me that she actually felt very sorry towards my grandmother. She didn't listen to her and fell for someone's tricks outside, causing my grandmother to be alone for the rest of her life. She didn't dare to go home, and she was always very afraid to mention my grandmother. Maybe she really felt very guilty. I wanted to treat my grandmother better. I wanted to help my mother make up for what she had done. I never knew if my grandmother was still alive. I thought she had already passed away. Until today, when I saw her like this, I really felt very sad. Lin Che's eyes were a little moist. Seeing this, Ji Jingza couldn't help but forget what she had said before. They shouldn't be so intimate anymore. His hand delicately grasped her palm. Lin Che leaned against the wall, feeling his familiar scent getting closer and closer. His body was also getting closer and closer. The aroma that made people yearn for it had a mysterious magic power. He wrapped his arm around her shoulders, and just like that, he gently hugged her body. Lin Che closed her eyes, thinking about all the things that had happened when they were together. He was always this gentle, this way that made it hard for people to extricate themselves. They had agreed on a contractual marriage, but he seemed to be leading her into his own abyss. She had already said that she wanted to restore the distance between the two of them. Why was he still helping her like this, treating her with such gentleness as if he was doting on her? Lin Che suddenly pushed Ji Jingza away and took a step back. She raised her head and looked at him. Ji Jingza, why are you so nice to me? Ji Jingza frowned. Chapter 249. If he still had Mo Hualing in his heart and wasn't loyal to her, she would rather he not treat her so well. She couldn't take it. No. I mean, forget it. You can see whoever you want. It has nothing to do with me. Lin Che turned around angrily. He felt that he was being unreasonable. Ji Jingza grabbed her hand and forced her to look at him. What do you mean? Tell me, who do you think I'm seeing? Lin Che murmured. She felt that she had gone overboard by telling him not to see Miss Mo I didn't mean it that way. I was just babbling nonsense just now. I was in a bad mood and got agitated. It's your business who you want to meet. I have no right to interfere. Lin Che tried his best to appear natural and smiled in his direction. She felt wronged, but at the same time, she felt that she was being unreasonable. Lin Che felt that she couldn't stay here any longer. Otherwise, she might beat Ji Jingza's chest and ask him why he had to be so entangled with that disgusting Mo Hualing. He could have liked anyone, but he had to like such a two-faced person. Lin Che said, forget it, I'm really fine. I'll take the car in front. Lin Che opened the car door as she said that. Outside, the group only knew that Ji Jingza had probably quarreled with Lin Che. Ji Jingza had been in a bad mood the whole day. His face was like that of the king of hell, and he didn't smile at all. Although he had been like this in the past, his face was inexplicably sour today. So at this moment, no one dared to look back as they watched the two of them quarreling from afar. Lin Che opened the car door and ran out. Ji Jingza didn't understand. Although he felt that it was strange, he felt that Lin Che was never an unreasonable person. So, there must be a reason why she suddenly became like this. Ji Jingza was getting more and more worried about this silly girl. He didn't know what had happened to her. In a moment of panic, he followed her out of the car. Lin Che only cared about running forward. She was pushed to the ground by the roadside. She was so unlucky that she couldn't even fill the gaps between her teeth. She grimaced in pain and sat on the ground, feeling a sharp pain in her knee. Ji Jingza immediately saw where Lin Che had fallen. He was originally wearing a skirt and only a thick pair of stockings. Now that his leg was hurting, he lowered his head to take a look. The stockings had already been torn, and there was a patch of blood inside. His heart clenched, and he hurriedly walked over. He quickly squatted down to take a look. Ji Jingza looked at Lin Che and said, "Why are you so careless? What happened? Are your legs made of bamboo? How could you fall like that? Let me see what happened." Lin Che was in pain and tired. She felt so wronged that she almost cried. I don't need you to care about me. Move aside and don't care about me. You don't need to pity me or pity me. Lin Che stretched out his hand and pushed Jiyu Jingze away. However, his hand was grabbed by Jiyu Jingze. Lin Che wanted to shake him off, but he couldn't. He could only raise his head and stare at him hatefully. Lin Che, I have no sympathy, no matter who it is. But I can't ignore you. As Jiyu Jingze spoke, he pressed her arm hard to stop her from moving. Then he knelt down in front of her, lifted her leg and put it on his own. He lowered his head and carefully looked at the wound on her leg. Seeing the blood flowing down, he lowered his head and gently blew on her leg. Who do you think wants to care about you? Jiyu Jingze looked up and glared at her. Ignoring Lin Che's objection, Jiyu Jingze turned around and gave someone a look. Someone quickly brought in a spare first aid kit in the car. Under the night sky, he opened the first aid kit and asked the person to step back. He carefully poured the medicine onto her wound and then used a pair of scissors to cut off the stockings on the side. Ouch! She groaned. The medicine stung her and she couldn't help but want to retract her leg. Jiyu Jingze pulled her back and snorted. He held her leg tightly and didn't let her move. That's enough. Even if it hurts, you deserve it. Lin Che's eyes ached even more. Yes, I deserve it. She deserved to meet Jiyu Jingze. She deserved to meet a man who had someone else in his heart. Jiyu Jingze glared at her again, but his voice had softened. Does it really hurt? It doesn't. Lin Che's heart softened. She looked at him and murmured. Jiyu Jingze said, then why did you run away? You can't joke around with your body even if you're angry. Who's angry? Lin Che pouted and looked up shyly. You're not angry, he said. Don't say that again. You don't want me to care about you anymore. A warm current flowed through Lin Che's body. She almost cried. She didn't want to say that. She was never a woman who cried for no reason, but she suddenly felt sad. It was all because of him. Jiyu Jingze said, I won't leave you alone. Even though you've always been so stupid, so brainless, and so sloppy, I won't leave you alone. Lin Che glared at him. I haven't even complained that you're troublesome, and you're complaining about me. Why do I have so many problems? Are you crazy? You need to take your medicine. You don't know when you'll die, and you're still pestering your ex-girlfriend. Jiyu Jingze frowned. I've already broken up with Mo Hualing. I'll never see her again. Why would I be pestering her? Lin Che looked up at him. Don't lie to me. I know you've seen each other. She felt even more wronged, especially when her legs were still in his arms and he was still looking at her while kneeling. Jiyu Jingze frowned. What nonsense are you talking about? Jiyu Jingze said as he tightened his grip. Ouch! Lin Che cried out in pain. Jiyu Jingze immediately relaxed and looked at Lin Che worriedly. Seeing that she was fine, he relaxed a little. I really don't know what to do with you, Lin Che. You're sent by God to ruin me. Why is it still me who ruins you? It's obviously you who ruins me. Lin Che's tears were already flowing as she said that. She was such a failure as a person. She was such a failure. Jiyu Jingze saw that she was crying and his heart ached. He quickly caressed her face and kissed her tears gently. Don't cry, don't cry. Don't cry, don't cry. Lin Che, you fool, I really haven't seen Hui Ling again. The last time I saw her, I already told her that I won't have any feelings for her anymore. I only feel disgusted when I see her. I no longer have any feelings for her. From the last time I saw her, I already understood that I was completely disappointed in her. Then why did you touch her? You'll get sick if you touch her. Touch her? What nonsense are you talking about? I told her that I wanted to introduce a good man to her, but she threw herself at me. So, I won't see her again. That was the last time. There won't be a next time, he said. Lin Che was stunned. So that was what happened. They didn't spend the night together. They didn't. He said he didn't have feelings for her anymore. He didn't love Mo Hualing anymore. Lin Che suddenly felt that she was really stupid. Why did she believe Mo Hualing after hearing her words? Why didn't she talk to Jiyu Jingza about it? Chapter 250. But at this moment, Lin Che simply didn't know what to say. She could only stare blankly at Jiyu Jingza. For a moment, she felt silly and embarrassed. What on earth had she been doing these few days? She said that she wanted to keep her distance from him, but in the end, it only made her realize her own selfishness. She didn't want to keep her distance from him at all. On the contrary, she only wanted him to love her. Now, after throwing a tantrum for an entire day, she had even misunderstood him. She had really let her jealousy get to her head. Although she didn't want to admit it, this kind of worrying about personal gains and losses wasn't jealousy. If it wasn't jealousy, what else could it be? Tears were still hanging from the corners of her eyes. Jiyu Jingza looked at her pitifully and lowered his head to wipe away the last teardrop on her eyelashes. He didn't know why, but he really didn't want to see her shed a single tear. Not even a single one. Even though she had really angered him to death these 2 days, he still didn't want to see her cry. Lin Che hurriedly said, I didn't mean it that way. If you want to see me, then see me. I didn't, only now did she regret it. She hurriedly said stubbornly, but her tone was no longer as sorrowful as before. This little one's emotions were all written on her face. Her face was full of arrogance now, and her emotions were completely different from just now. Jiyu Jingza's eyes instantly sparkled, as if they were diamonds that were being reflected. He cupped her cheeks and looked at her face. Are you jealous? Lin Che's face turned red again. I'm not. I hate sour things the most. Lin Che really felt that she was going to die of embarrassment. She hurriedly turned her head away, especially when she felt that Jiyu Jingza was still laughing. She wanted to bury her head completely. After consulting with Dr. Chen, he told me why I was angry. I thought about it. Actually, I just felt that Mo Hualing was delaying herself by finding a former rival of mine. It seemed like she was purposely angering me, so I was angry. In the end, it was because I was disappointed in Mo Hualing, not because I was jealous. So I went to see Mo Hualing, hoping that she could mend her ways. Who knew that she would suddenly pounce on me, and that's why I was angry. Now, whenever I meet her, my illness gets worse. It seems that I only hate her, and I really don't have any feelings for her. As Lin Che listened to his words, he slowly understood and felt relieved. So that's how it was, he hadn't been with Mo Hualing for that long. Jiyu Jingza smiled and moved closer. So, you thought that I was being intimate with another woman, so you're angry and don't want to talk to me anymore? Even though this reason sounded a little unreasonable, it was still a little unreasonable. He didn't like unreasonable women, but when he thought of this reason, he actually felt a little excited. He didn't feel disgusted at all. Lin Che felt his smile getting closer to her. He was deliberately teasing her expression. She was so angry that she reached out and hit his chest resentfully. You are teasing me on purpose, Jiyu Jingza. You are doing this on purpose. How dare you laugh at me? All right, I know. I'll stop. Don't hit me. Jiyu Jingza quickly pressed her hands down. He looked at her cheeks. Her face was still red. She looked like the moon in the autumn. Jiyu Jingza's heart softened. Really, I'll never see her again. Who knows if it's true or not? Lin Che pouted, tilted his head, and looked to the side. Even if you secretly went to see her, I wouldn't know. It's okay, I won't do this again. If you want to see her, then go. You don't have to hide it from me. Jiyu Jingza said, of course it's true. Do you want me to take out my heart for you to see? Take it out. I'll watch you take it out, Lin Che said. Jiyu Jingza smiled and looked at her deeply. Okay, I'll take it out for you. What do you mean by close? With that said, he suddenly grabbed the back of her head and pressed his lips against hers. Was this what you call a close check? Chapter 251. How many women in the world would want to be examined by him? Lin Che felt his own lips go numb from all the teasing, and he became muddle-headed as well. Under his teasing, she forgot everything except for curling up in his arms, closing her eyes and feeling his roughness and gentleness. It was unbelievably passionate. She felt that she had lost. She had completely lost. How did she meet such a demon and fall into his trap? She couldn't get out of it. After a long time, he finally let go of her. He looked down at her clothes, adjusted her collar, and used his fingers to wipe the moisture from her lips. Lin Che was still in a daze. She took a deep breath and looked at him in a daze. She looked very silly. His smile became even more devilish. "All right, get up. There's still something to do." He whispered into her ear, "I know you're not satisfied yet. Let's go home at night and take our time." Lin Che blinked before she realized what he had said. She jumped up immediately. "Jiyu Jingzi, who's going to?" But for a moment, he forgot that his leg had just been touched. It was still very painful, and he screamed in pain. Jiyu Jingzi frowned and held her up. "Look at how clumsy you are. You're so stupid. It's all your fault." Humph. If it weren't for him, she wouldn't have jumped out of the car. What's there to blame? It's the first time I've seen someone fall like this while walking. Jiyu Jingzi helped Lin Che into the car. He felt that she was so stupid. If he didn't keep an eye on her, she wouldn't even know when she left home one day. Outside, when everyone saw that the two of them seemed to have finally reconciled, they acted very professionally and returned to their posts as if nothing had happened. Some drove, some got into their cars, and some got into their cars. Under the surprised and envious gazes of the people outside, the motorcade drove towards the private hospital in front of them. Lin Che and Jiyu Jingzi arrived at the hospital quickly. In the best ward upstairs, the doctor was already ready. Although they had just checked over there, they were going to check the other places that hadn't been checked thoroughly. Jiyu Jingzi followed behind Qiao Jian. When Qiu Shuyun saw the two of them walk in, she said with some doubt, "Little Che, what happened to you two? Why did you come so late?" Lin Che recalled everything that had just happened. His chest still felt a little shy. His lips were still swollen, but he didn't know if others could see it. Seeing her stuttering, Jiyu Jingzi glared at her and said, "She's clumsy. When she walked out of the hospital, she broke her leg. On the way, I applied the medicine on her leg and comforted her." "Placate," he said, looking at her with a smile, and a strange light in his eyes. Lin Che wanted to pinch him from behind. This man still had the cheek to say that he was comforting her. On the road, he didn't care. As for Jiyu Jingzi, after he finished speaking, he looked straight ahead in a very natural manner, turning a blind eye to Lin Che's widened eyes. Hearing this, grandmother nodded and said, "So that's how it is. You're too careless, little Che. But your mother used to be like this too. Sigh, no matter where she went when she was young, she would always come back covered in injuries." Hearing grandmother mention his deceased mother, Lin Che's heart felt a little sour. Grandmother thought for a moment, as if she was still recalling her deceased daughter's appearance. She smiled and looked up, saying, "Look at me. What am I thinking about again?" "Oh yeah, little Che, what is this place?" Lin Che said, "This is a hospital." Grandmother said in surprise, "This is a hospital? Then why is this hospital so big?" In her memory, hospitals were always messy and narrow. There were people everywhere, and it was a sea of white. There were busy doctors everywhere, and the smell was especially unpleasant. The smell of disinfectant mixed with the smell of the patients, and it was difficult to clean up. However, this place was unbelievably clean. The ground was spotless, and there was no one around. There was also no smell at all. Lin Che didn't say that this was the most expensive private hospital in City S. The doctors were all foreign professors, and the chief surgeons were all hired externally. They were very good. Of course, the price was also very high. This was an expensive private ward. It seemed that it was specially prepared. Lin Che looked at Jiyu Jingzi. He was really grateful for his help. He lowered his head and said, This place was brought in by someone I know. The doctors here are better. Really? Little Che, is the person you know very good? Of course he was good. Jiyu Jingza was the best person she knew. Yes, very good. Grandma, don't worry. You don't have to spend money here. Aya, I just want you to help me collect the bus fare so that I can go back. No, Grandma, you will have a small surgery. I have to help you treat it. What? Lin Che was afraid that she would worry, so he told her about the surgery in detail. It was a small, minimally invasive surgery. Grandmother was relieved after hearing this. She looked at Lin Che and then at Jiyu Jingza, who was standing behind her. Xiaoche, I'm relieved to see that you've married so well. You have to take good care of the family. Being someone's wife is different from living your own life. You have to work harder and do more work. Lin Che quickly agreed. He heard Jiyu Jingza say, Grandma is the best. You have such a good marriage. You have to cherish it in the future. Don't be angry. Lin Che turned around and glared at him. However, Jiyu Jingza was very unscrupulous because Lin Che didn't dare to say anything because grandmother was here. Grandmother said, that's right. You are his wife. Can't you anger him? It's very hard for a man to earn money outside. Lin Che still glared at him. Jiyu Jingza stood straight beside her. He lowered his head a little and whispered into her ear, how dare you glare at me? Grandma is right. I'm the one who works hard every day. You don't do anything but enjoy life. Grandma naturally thought that he was talking about his work outside. However, Lin Che felt that he was talking about something that would only happen in bed. Lin Che thought that he was going crazy to act like a hooligan so openly. Jiyu Jingza also knew that he was making a mistake. However, seeing that she clearly understood him and wanted to get angry but didn't dare to get angry, he actually enjoyed it. Looking at her blushing face, he wanted to tease her even more. Teasing her was a very interesting thing. Then what you did was wrong, little Che. You should do more in the future, grandmother said. Lin Che was so embarrassed that his eyebrows were knitted together. He wanted to explain but couldn't. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.